I guess the big question would be, was that coffee? Because you
I
just
don't
downed it
know.
really quickly,
Well, I
and
mean,
it
if it's gonna
seems
be okay, so I'll be it. If it's coffee, it's gonna wake me up. If it's not coffee, we're gonna have a very short conversation.
you're just
Well,
like, you're just gonna fade.
I I mean, so we came back like 11:30 last night or almost
Dang.
midnight. And it's just like that every night. It's, there's the day activity and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah,
um
it's
I
trade
want to
show
say
coverage.
well, it's part of it is trade show as well, but there I'm actually on a separate thing right now. After MWC's for me is done technically, I'm on a Oppo decided to invite us on a photography tour. So I'm doing that part, but there's a lot of activities of going places and stuff, and then
Hmm.
there's travel time. So you get sleep where you can, and for the most part,
Yeah.
I've been sleeping like on the bus and about like that 5 hours. Like right now, it's about 5:30 a.m. I have to look for some reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's okay.
Well, you made it though.
I
I mean, we
am.
could have done
Uh,
this. We could have done this my AM, and you were like, "Well, let's try it today." I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna
no,
fight you. I like
so
the
the
nighttime." So,
yeah, it's because I couldn't guarantee I would be back at the hotel at the time I needed to be. This
gotcha.
is where schedules and stuff like that. So it's I'd rather just do this and snooze on the bus to going where we're going, and then than having to say, yeah, I'll definitely be there at 5:30, and then you show up and you're like, TK, TK, what's up, man?
Hey,
And I'm
buddy.
like, yeah, and I'm like in a dead zone or something. I do want to talk a little bit about Pixel and traveling with a Pixel,
Sure.
interestingly enough, because yeah, either
Well,
way,
I think we can kick this off. And hello, everybody. Welcome to
yeah,
another episode of Best of Our
absolutely,
Week, where two old guys talk about the best tech of their week. And
so much
one of
tech
these guys, broadcasting on location,
on
man on
location.
the scene, uh,
Absolutely.
in
In Spain.
Barcelona.
Close, Malaga this time. Barcelona and
Ah,
Malaga. So I'm in the
muy
south of
bien.
the south of Spain, about maybe an hour and a half away from Gibraltar. If you have to like point of
Nice.
reference, it's further south, closer to yeah, the most southern point of Spain.
And we've been seeing all the press releases, and we've been seeing all the
Oh
news,
my.
and we've got Johnny on the spot here covering MWC 2023.
Yes, sir. All the way. And where is my phone? I cannot believe it. Okay, so with my buddy, my champ, the Vivo X90 Pro. We're going
Hey.
to talk about that part as well. So, but yes, a lot of stuff. There was a lot. This is the mobile conference. This is the show.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one that usually has all the mobile hits hitting one after another. Where I feel like CES has stopped being that. It's maybe a few
Oh yeah.
announcements here and there, and then IFA obviously for the most part is very, very scarce with data. I mean,
Yeah.
there may be announcements, but there's nobody on the show's floor. So, I mean, almost nobody. So, yeah,
It's
it's
been interesting to watch from this side, because we had a conversation a while back talking about CES
yeah, yeah.
versus some of the other shows like E3,
Hmm.
and I still feel like there's this sense of like a trade show has to define what value it's bringing to
Hmm.
its audience. And that means not only just the people that go to the show, but then also the exhibitors who
Yeah.
present. And in phone land, it's really easy to kind of hold your own press conference, but there still seems to be a lot of momentum about having the big, all the press is there, you're
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Spain.
Yep.
This is like kind of more fun travel for a lot of people, especially like it's easier for people in Europe to cover this event.
Absolutely. To them, it's like an easy hop, Ryanair or Vueling, and they're like 30 minutes up to an hour or whatever. They're like boom, boom, kind of like our CES travel, but
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So but it's been interesting to see because we've been seeing a number of, I think, some very interesting announcements about what's coming for mobile tech, and
Hmm.
it hasn't just been, well, we are defined only by the next phone announcements of phones that will be coming out. There definitely seems to be a lot of future tech into the mix
Yeah.
as well.
No, no, absolutely. And um, the one thing I will say, it feels like pre-pandemic MWC. This is the I could not walk
Nice.
down the hall without bumping 6,000 people before getting to me, and me end up having to go into the booths just to kind of go around people because it's such a
Yeah.
tunnel back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Um, a lot of our friends made it as far as coverage and being here, but it was
Hmm.
still crazy to even try to like see people that like you see them for 2 seconds and then they're off to their thing and you're off to your thing, and you may see them
Yeah.
there, but you may not. Um, and then we got to hear and see some new tech that was almost like I didn't even know was going to happen. But I will say, as far as the booths and announcement, Xiaomi decided to do it a little bit differently this year. They made their launch event a day before or the evening
Yeah.
before MWC. So they weren't even announcing it on the show floor because typically that's what happens. But they still
Hmm.
had a booth, and their booth was freaking amazing. Like they have the 12S Ultra concept, my friend. It was behind
Nice.
glass. We couldn't touch it, but it was there. I can
Oh,
tell you, I saw it in the mechanical flesh. Let's just say
that's
that it was there.
awesome.
It was there. Yeah.
Well, I think that points. I mean, if we want, we can kind of start with some of the companies and some of the things that you saw. But
Oh no, sure.
again, kind of covering this more from the press releases. You and me, we've both been playing with a couple different flavors of Xiaomi phones.
Absolute. Oh, sorry, wrong one.
Um,
Yeah, this TK will be playing the. He pulled out the wrong phone. I'm just hoping I don't pull out the really wrong phone, and then TK has no more. No, I think
I won't
everything I
say anything if
have.
you won't. I believe our audience is anything if they're discreet.
Very discreet. No,
Very
I was meaning
discreet.
like I could pull, like I got I didn't think I was gonna get the Honor 5X Pro, and I was able to get my hands on one. So
Nice.
that was a nice little perk of being able to meet up with them. But yeah, so I have the 13 Pro, and
Hmm.
one has the 13 Pro. No, I'm
I
sorry,
have the
the
13.
13. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. English, not my language. I'm just kidding. But mine's like super reflective, super fingerprint magnet. I wish
Hmm.
we had better. This is
Yeah,
my only thing. I
the lighter color with this kind of like glossy back is a little bit less fingerprint. I mean, you can see it's still mirror finish,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. But
you don't
it's
see any
still
smudges or fingerprints
this
on
is
this
literally
photo.
mirror, like mirror
Yeah.
on the phone was the prettiest of them all
Now,
kind of thing.
I will say for having the bigger camera sensor, having the mirror finish is really nice for lining up a rear camera selfie. So,
Which is surprisingly still a thing. And I'm not saying a thing like in the sense of what you uh, I'm a believer of it, and I know that that's going to always be the same situation. The main camera is going to be the bread and butter, and that's literally how the phone is
mhm,
shaped. It's shaped around that one sensor. Um, and I was hoping for more improvements on the front-facing cameras and different things. Like we still
mhm,
see only 1080p and still see
yeah.
super smoothing and stuff like that. So I've given that feedback, but it seems like more and more. Um, well, I'll take that back. I'm just glad that at the beginning of 2023, there are two global edition devices at this point that are featuring the 989 and that are
Yep.
making it the star of the show. And believe me here when I say Xiaomi, absolutely kudos for that.
Mhm.
Vivo has been.
Rocking my socks.
I okay. I will. I honestly I don't know if I want to call it, but like for 2023, seriously, to me right now,
Mhm.
the not the S23, the X90 Pro is seriously where it's at. Like photography, even no videography and photography. The camera prowess of the X90 Pro with the V2
Mhm.
had. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I think the 13 Pro from Xiaomi is great and it has a lot of functionality. I
Yeah.
think keep in mind that my experience with it right now is still pre-production, early release.
Oh,
We
that's
got a
true.
massive
Yeah.
software update on day one of launch. I don't know if yours did get one. Mine
Yeah,
was like a
actually, you know what? Let me
5.3
double
gig.
check again because mine didn't get. So they had an early update. They said if they contacted me as like you have to run this update while you're using it the week before, but I
Okay.
don't think I got day one. So let me
Okay. So
see.
day one for me was like 5.3 gigs, like a full ROM, full
it's,
install.
it's a totally different phone.
It's a different, yeah. So I haven't had
Xiaomi
the
flew to your
opportunity
house,
to
took the phone out of your hand,
he's
put
like, and
another
here's,
phone in.
and yeah, and like, this is it. Um, so I've had an opportunity to take a few shots with that. I mean, it already performed quite well with even before the day one software, but the day one software was big enough for me that I felt like this still needs a little bit more conversation. Um, but with that being said,
I do
it
have an update, and it is 5.3 gig. I've been
congratulations,
looking on this
welcome,
phone like it
welcome to
has
the
not arrived.
5.3.
I'm
It
finally I'm
needed me on the line.
5.3 gang.
Yay! You know what I mean? That's the party, man. You gotta join the 5.3. No, I found out about it on the show floor while I was on data, and I was like, I am not downloading 5.3 gigs on my phone then. Like,
No.
so yeah, no. So the thing about it is all this. They announced the 13, the 13 Pro. The thing that I also got excited me was the 13 Lite, which was the
Yeah.
first 7 Gen 1. Although, don't get me wrong, although the 7 Plus Gen 1 just got announced a couple of weeks ago, this is the first 7 Gen 1 to be released on the market.
Yeah.
So that was also exciting. A more budget-friendly version of their device with apparently two front-facing flashlights. Like they had LEDs on
Hmm.
there. I didn't even realize they was there. So yeah, and then they had a lot more too. They had so they have the watch, which I have,
Yeah.
and then they also had, if I'm not mistaken, they also had the buds. Almost looks like I rated MWC and came out with all the tech, but no. So they had the buds, the watch, and then they had the there's the scooter, the new the Scooter 4 Pro. I don't
I
remember.
can't remember what
Yeah,
gen,
but
but I mean, we've been building those Xiaomi scooters since my days at Newegg. So
yeah, it is
yeah.
crazy. And I have the 3 Pro. They sent it to me last year. I want to say last year, or maybe the year before. It's a great scooter. I mean, it does a lot of stuff. And this
Hmm.
one's supposed to have even better suspension, longer range, bigger battery, all plus 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 kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But so yeah, for Xiaomi, I think overall it's a big event for them. And the
Well,
booth
I,
was
I want to
amazing.
I want to try to pull this up, and actually, I should have been doing that because I was just listening to you. But
No problem.
I
No, no.
feel like Xiaomi is leaning into one of the main themes here. I'm gonna pull this up from Engadget.
Cool.
I think that'll work.
I do apologize, by the way, for anybody if my voice or my video feed turns into mush. The hotel
Oh, you're
Wi-Fi is
fine.
not where it's at. Oh, and I
So,
seem to be sleeping in SpongeBob SquarePants' room, just for reference. If you see
who
the
lives in a
this,
pineapple under
yeah,
the
to
sea?
say Fun Bob SquarePants. So,
T
yeah,
Bay KT. No, I can't really
the-
make that rhyme.
yeah.
Let me share my screen here
I love how my
entirely.
camera always zooms to my face when I try to drink water. It thinks like I'm disappearing from here. So it's
So
like, yeah.
I know a lot of
Oh yeah,
companies
the glasses.
were
Yeah.
showing off modular and not modular, rollables and foldables and things like
Mhm.
that. It's this category. It is this strategy that I think can legitimately start to unseat the smartphone. And so
Yeah.
Xiaomi, they made their big push before MWC for all of the actual practical, these are the things you can buy products.
Mhm.
And then this was one of the major announcements that really got me excited to see them moving forward. We covered this like a year ago when they had that sort of concept idea of what an AR glasses solution could look like.
Yeah.
And I made jokes about how undignified I was in like rushing off to go email Xiaomi PR like you gotta keep me posted on what's going on with these. And so showing off AR glasses at MWC, I think is kind of our next step. I
Yeah.
have been ready for a heads up wireless display, something kind of AR based, the next generation of Google Glass since Google Glass came out. And so
And yeah,
now we're finally getting there. So I don't know if you had a chance to kind of peek in on
I
this
went
at
to the
their
booth.
booth, but
It's one of the only things that so along the line of yes, they had the Concept 12S Ultra. They had the glasses, but they had them behind the glass.
yeah,
So
I
no,
would have
the only
figured.
person that had the opportunity to wear them was Abby, the spokesperson for Xiaomi that basically goes on
Hmm.
stage that makes the announcements. Super nice lady, and it was just I could not get my hands. I tried. I wanted to, and I went and there, but seriously, when I say this has been pre-pandemic MWC, dude, it was packed every time I went there. The Xiaomi booth
Hmm.
was packed. So they had some of their autonomous robotics team. They had the robot dog, the one that they had from last year. They had a demo room for some of their TV. They had a different area specifically designated for their scooters. Poco, as you can imagine, as well was there. And then there was basically just an area in the front where they were showcasing their foldable, obviously the 12 series and the 13 series, and then the 12T Pro custom
Yeah,
edition, the one with the like the etching on the back. So that was there. But yeah,
cool.
the design seems very promising, and it is essentially what you would expect. It's supposed to be basically a lighter, better version of what the metaverse's technology is getting in there with the Quest and some of the other
Hmm.
options. They didn't look too big. I'll say that they didn't look like they were as
Yeah,
ominous on
they
that.
look kind of
They look
chunky,
decent.
but they
Yeah, but
look bigger than like the headsets that we played with, just for
yeah,
a plain static wearable display.
yeah, yeah,
But you'd have to have a lot more going on to have cameras and sensors and all the
absolutely.
additional three-axis head tracking and all that stuff too. Or I guess
Oh,
no, it's like it's technically six-axis.
yeah, I think it'll be. I thought it was like four to. Yeah, it's either 4 or 6 axis tracking because it needs all the information is a little bit more fluid because of the fact that it's really meant to be stationary. And if you stand up and you want to basically play, it needs to know where you are. So
Oh,
spatial awareness, cameras all around, as you could see in those images, they look fantastic, but I don't know. I feel like the design may still change a little bit. I think that's
oh, I'm sure
probably
it
what they're
will.
thinking. But it's still amazing that they're able to showcase that type of
Yeah.
technology. But so one of the other thing I got a chance. So one thing that was not officially kind of announced a lot, but so back in November or so, Oppo talked about their AR glasses. They AR glasses 2 at their Innovation Day, and they had those demoed at MWC.
Hmm.
So they had those, and I will say this: their AR glasses with battery and everything were as light as my glasses. It was featherweight. I would pick it up, put it on, and I felt like I had nothing. And in the brim of the glasses, everything was so thin. It was nice.
Hmm.
I tested them. I mean, yeah. So those are the glasses, absolutely. And these glasses seriously look like. Do I even have the footage on my? No, it's not. It's on my phone, isn't it? It's on my X90. Hold on, let me see if I can show this to you guys. It was just crazy, and this is going to be stupid on my side too. Like, yeah, what are you doing, TK? You're taking video of. You're showing it straight up. And we'll talk about the other stuff too. It's just like my camera roll is like crazy. I have to
So
go back and
what I'm really excited to see is like if these Oppo Air really do expand on the concept of heads-up display.
mhm.
So without having numerous cameras, so that Xiaomi, hey, hold on, let me make you big. Look at that guy. Look at
Yeah,
that
but
hot mamma jamma.
yeah, absolutely. And here, let's see this. Can we do
You
this?
you do look good in a pair of glasses. Those are good
But that's
frames
how
for you.
yeah, look how thin they are. Like
Yeah.
seriously. Like you could totally
So
wear these and not even think that they're AR.
so was the concept to make interactive AR, or is it more like heads-up display,
I
like
think it's
smartwatch
more
at eye level?
okay, so it's supposed to be more smartwatch at eye level. I feel like it's more like a focal by North. Sorry. It's
Hmm.
these are my shoes. This is me. And this is where my camera fails. Like, oh, I think that's what happened.
The tracking on this camera is phenomenal. I love
Oh,
it.
it
I love
is
it so
absolutely
much.
phenomenal. Hold on, let's see. Can we do? Come on. This is crazy. Okay, okay, come up. Nope, that's not happening. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, here we
So
are. We're
yeah,
back.
it seemed to me like the way that they're building the sort of uh,
The frame, the
yeah,
lenses. Yeah,
the
you'll
frame,
notice there's
the
two.
lenses into
Yeah,
the frame, and then the I forget what they call that technology now. The diffractive elements of the lens that can show information from a projected source. Blah, blah, blah.
up above.
Um,
Yeah,
it seemed to me like that was a take on my favorite sort of at a glance information delivery product, which was the
absolutely.
Focals by North.
Yeah.
What Xiaomi was showing off to me looks like, hey, can we simplify a HoloLens
Yes.
and make it not look like a Space Ranger helmet on your
Hmm.
face,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just something that is a little more discreet. And it's fascinating watching companies. I mean, because they're coming from different sides of this. Heads up
Mm.
display is very simple. There's really no reason why we couldn't be incorporating real time smartwatch style, tiny little bits of information, notifications, at a
A
glance stuff. Like,
little bit
we
more
have
than
the
that.
tech for it now.
Yeah, yeah. There. So Oppo's approach, I think, feel like it's a little bit more than just heads up information, more like active music player, interactive music player, like live translation communication between two
Nice.
people, where you're getting the live translated text in front of you on the glass,
Sure.
and the other person's speaking. So there's a lot more that they're trying to push for. But at its core, you're right. It's more of a heads up display, and it shows
Well,
up in two different spots. Like
but
I feel like the
the
glasses are backwards, the one that they're
the
showing in there.
the thing that I feel like a lot of people never really grokked because focals were so limited in their
Yeah.
distribution was like we were kind of already at that point.
Hmm.
What was holding you back was how restrictive the tech was for it being like mapped to only your face. So if you tried to show someone else what they looked like, it wouldn't work because it wasn't mapped for their face.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had speech to text, we had turn-by-turn navigation, we had
Yep.
interactive elements, we had
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these different sort of real-time smartphone-powered experiences. And it really was like what you're describing there to me sounds exactly like the concept that I want. Take the
Yeah.
smartwatch off of my wrist and put it up at eye level so I
Hmm.
get these bursts of short interactive bits of information, like real-time translation.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is
Yeah.
a back and forth. It's not like what Xiaomi's trying to do is saying like, hey, we can have something interact with the walls of your environment, and
Hmm.
as you look around, it's going to remember your position in space to track that information. So again, it's just interesting because like Xiaomi's concept, I think is a lot more HoloLens futuristic.
Yeah,
It's a lot more
and or the like the
aggressive.
MetaQuest Pro, even if
Exactly.
you think about it, like it really was more focused on the VR part of it. I feel like more than the AR part of it. Although you did have more AR because the way they set it up, it reminds me a lot of the TCL glasses that we got a chance to play with, where if you remove the front cover, you have the bottom part is kind of a little bit transparent. You still get that
Hmm.
the reflective and the projection kind of still hits it, but you're able to see your environment. And I think you
Yeah.
could just cover it up. They look more like glasses now. They're getting better, smaller,
Hmm.
smaller, better, faster type of technology approach. And I feel like at the end of the day, the limitation is really more because at the end of the day, what's going to end up happening is how much battery are they able to put in
Yeah.
there? How long is it going to last? And how long? Because you can imagine a design like that where you're
Hmm.
nothing is in the back, where typically that's where you have the battery configuration. Um, it's going to have some kind of tethering kind of a solutions, like something
Yeah.
maybe sitting belt
Well,
level. Yeah.
and and AR gets real. I mean, anything that interacts with your eyes
Hmm.
that organically is gonna get real precious, because you do not want current Miracast frame rates on wireless AR.
No, no,
You
no,
know,
no.
like
You
I
won't.
we've played with a few of these like wireless laptops and stuff, and you're like, you know what, wirelessly on my eye at 30 frames per second
It's a
isn't
very
the thing.
you're less likely to enjoy the experience. You're more likely to feel nauseous,
And
especially if there's a lot
projectile
of
vomit.
yeah, because
This guy.
the disorienting experience of seeing things run at when it's not where it's intended to be more realistic, realistic to life, but you're noticing
Hmm.
that you're not. You know things are off. Your brain knows something is wrong,
Yeah.
and it's trying to compensate, and then you end up getting motion sickness from just standing there. It's like the early days of the HTC Vive. I remember I tried it out a couple times.
Hmm.
After about 10 minutes, I didn't feel anything on the way when I was finishing playing the games. But after I left the booth and I was walking around with a buddy of mine at the time, um, I started feeling nauseous. I was like, "Wait a
Yeah.
minute, what happened?" Yeah, the body gets disoriented. The the biggest thing I would probably say is we're we're looking for better technology that does provide us that smooth experience.
Yeah.
I I I'm not gonna make it sound like I've played a lot. I've I've gone into the Quest VR, the Quest
Hmm.
2 VR experience. This isn't really the metaverse. The metaverse is supposed to be like a VR representation of yourself. So it's really where
Right.
people can do things in it. So we'll have to see how this approach again goes into it. I feel like from Oppo's design, which is more of a heads-up display interface, that's now finally lightweight enough that the bridge that you see on that is not that thick, and the weight on the actual glasses are it's very very light, a lot lighter than what you think, even because we've seen other devices.
Yeah.
But then it works, and you're charging it. It has a clip. There's speakers on the side. There's a button, touch sensitivity, and of course the Xiaomi's just taking it to the next level. So I really
Nice.
like the approach there.
I'm really excited for this. I think this is what gets us to more practical and adaptive work
Yeah,
experiences with our
exactly.
phones. I totally get why so many folks are excited about foldables. I feel if you really want to go
There was a
big
few this year.
screen,
Yeah.
and there were, and I want to use this to kind of transition to them, but I just want to leave off with I am I like tablets. I love my duos and I like dual display. I like the ability to add double the screen real estate,
Yep.
but I've been less and less and less anxious or excited about that next generation concept as soon as I put on and this isn't even the fancy stuff. This is like the really passive stuff, but like the
Mhm.
Unreal Air, the TCL, the Rocket,
Yeah, yeah.
And now I'm sitting down and I've got a giant projector TV screen experience in front of
Yep.
me. There is no foldable that can compete with a movie theater that fits in a shirt pocket. Like that to me is now, I think, where we should be going next. How do we
It'll be one
disrupt
of those. We'll be like
the
holding the phone straight to
traditional?
your face. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want it to be that biologically intense,
Yeah.
and you're never going to have a folding screen that can immerse
You
me
know,
like that. It's just not a
absolutely.
thing.
And I think that's where we need to kind of hopefully, my hope is that we do get there. The one thing I will say with this type of tech, which I've seen in some earlier generations from some hard from other companies, I want them to work a little bit more on the heat, the
Yeah.
processing that they have on the bridge
Yes.
level, because we're putting technology straight up in our face.
For
And
sure.
most people that won't, haven't tried these before, first thing they'll notice is like, wait, this is a little bit warm. Like, yeah, but everything is
Yeah,
being
it
done
does.
here. It's not like it's sitting somewhere and you're leveraging it. No, you're on device kind of
It
thing.
gets toasty. Yeah.
It gets a little bit toasty, and I've seen different implementation of getting it, fixed and so on. So the hope is that we'll see some improvements there. But with
Yeah.
Xiaomi's approach, the unit is a lot bigger. There's more space in there, so you should be able to help that experience. But as we try to go more compact, kind of like the TCL or the Rocket and so on, you're going to need to get used to that a little bit. It's almost like if you ever use a phone for a while and you notice it gets a little bit
Hmm.
warm, this is going to be similar. You're using displays that are on at 30 to 45 to an hour, maybe 2 hours if you're watching a movie,
Hmm.
durations. So I'm hoping for that type of incremental improvement as time goes on.
Now, we do want to shift gears here. I mean,
Sure.
I'm sure you got to see some of the rollable action because
I
we're finally
finally
coming back
did.
to a concept that Oppo and LG sort of abandoned,
I It's
like
just crazy.
pre-pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It was like literally the last thing. What's it called? LG teased us at was the
Hmm.
rollable back at a CES 2020, and then of course shortly after we had the change in direction. I would probably say in LG's mobile department. So Motorola had a concept. Well, not has a concept, and they had two concepts, right? It's a using that technology, the rollable experience, where the display not it doesn't bend on itself, which is the typical foldable, device experience. You have a
Hmm.
display that kind of bends into a mechanism or a hinge, and then you're able to see it. The motor riser, is their concept or their approach to. Yeah, here that was Avi there. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's a foldable that's really more of a rollable, and the display rolls on the bottom of the phone to go to the other side, so it never really goes away. It's not like it's
Yeah.
going inside of the phone. And in the first impression when I first saw it, I didn't get that when you see it sitting on the stand going up and down on its own. Thursday or Wednesday or whichever day it was, last day I was right before we were leaving to come to Malaga. I went back to the show floor and it was a lot less busy. And I went up
Hmm.
to Motorola and like, hey, I'm here for another hour or so before I have to leave town. Any chance you can squeeze me in? And lo and behold, I was able to get my hand in there, to just play a little bit with it. They did a little demo. Um, I actually kind of like the approach that they're going with here, as opposed to going more sideways, tablet style
Yeah.
experience. They're really going for this is I almost want to say it feels more like this is the M2 Flip, where it becomes a phone when you're using it, but
Yeah.
then when you don't want it, it's a small phone. The rollable does the opposite. It stays in this form, and when you need it, it just expands. And
Hmm.
that display is so thin,
Yeah.
like it's
It
really
looks
thin,
teeny.
teeny
Yeah.
thin. Like it made me feel like like I feel like I'm gonna hit it, but it doesn't work. So they did it so in a way where it's not um like they tried to be a little bit smart about it, right? So
Hmm.
it doesn't come up all the time, it's not there all the time. You can expand it anytime by double pressing the power button. It expands the display up to the full screen and you can use it. But keep in mind, again, this is a concept. This is one of the things that we've seen in the past. Other
Yeah.
concept, those rollables we talked about were concepts. um I think the design is great. I think the approach is smart. I worry how realistic this, like, I'll say this, in the duration of the demo time that I had with the unit,
Hmm.
if we had to kind of just break it up into a 10-minute chunk, 8 minutes of that was the demo done to me by the representative that was with me. And I posted a video on my channel and you could see
Hmm.
her. She was absolutely amazing. She showcased everything in there perfectly. And then it was only 2 minutes at the end that you get to play with it.
Right.
when they know that you're not supposed to. And so
Yeah, for sure.
so yeah, 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 like they know
We
what
know
not to
that
do.
you know that they know that
Yeah,
you know that they
yeah.
know.
Yeah, there's a lot of eye contact and there's like, right? Like, I know, yeah. Like, no, you sure
I mean,
you know,
don't
right?
break eye contact. It gets
Yeah,
really uncomfortable.
it gets uncomfortable. Um, but the technology itself, I feel like it's exciting to see this tech. I'll see that.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see it. Once I got a chance to play with it for that experience in there, it felt like okay, I can see where this
Yeah.
fits. I see this makes sense. I'm excited for that. I'm sad that I'll say this that we're probably not going to see it in this form. They need to
No.
work a little bit on the enclosure. They need to work a little bit
Yeah.
on the protection of the display. It is super exposed. Like I can feel like if you just do
Yeah, it's like
on
the
the table,
Huawei first version of a folding tablet was
yeah,
screen out, and that
yeah,
means you're the most fragile part of this. When I saw this, and
mhm.
it kind of lit up again, I don't know what the real killer app is. I seriously doubt this is consumer facing in any way.
No,
I
no, I don't
really
think
don't
it's ready.
believe
I think the laptop version of it may be because it's a
so.
little bit more rigid, but from the
So
yeah on the riser, yeah,
the exciting thing to me is if we start talking about other industrial uses for displays that need to adapt to different scenarios.
hmm
That to me is where a lot of this stuff gets exciting. I'm a little less excited about sort of a folding tablet, but I'm sitting in front of this ultra wide gaming monitor and it's curved.
yeah,
And I think it would be really cool to have an industrial display that can personalize itself to the number of people who are watching.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Like
yeah,
a curved monitor experience is kind of crap if you're sitting off on the side. If like five people are trying to watch a curved display,
yeah.
this is not fun. But if one person is watching and it goes wraparound,
hmm
and it becomes like an immersive shell around your head, you could go ultra curve and stuff like that. The more that we kind of play with these types of concepts, I don't know that portability is really the killer app here for making a device substantially more expensive to achieve the same functionality that we
hmm
currently already have. And it's going to be way less durable, way more fragile, more
yeah,
prone to becoming e-waste on a drop, or you spill something on it or something like that. Whereas I think there are so many digital signage, um, office solutions,
yeah.
even automotive solutions where you could say,
Oh,
"Hey, I'm going to sit down in a car. Like you've got a Tesla. Sit down in a car, and not only does your seat and the steering wheel reposition for you, but what if the display
adjusts to you as well.
molded so that it was like that was your setting, so you had the best possible cockpit view of how
hmm
you were operating your car. Those types of things, as we start building on this notion of what we can do with a bendy screen, I think
Yeah,
are far more interesting than just, can I make my phone twice as thick and maybe a little bit bigger screen, but it's not as nice as just a cheap tablet screen.
exactly. Yeah,
Now
yeah.
I see something like this and you're like, man, this is going to be something that's going to be harassing me with cool video ads in the mall.
Yeah.
Like this is a technology that I will not be able to escape, and it's going to become so commonplace. But that to me is a future application that makes a lot of sense.
It's definitely yeah, and I guess like it's the durability and the ruggedness. The biggest thing I know I remember from the original rollables that we've seen in the past is the support structure behind the display.
Yeah,
It's displays, especially devices that are in hand. Obviously, they're intended to be poked and to intended to be used, swiped, touched all over the place. And you in the image as we saw there from Avi's video, it is super thin. It is absolutely almost paper thin. So definitely I we'll have to see how they bring it in. I liked
hmm,
I'll say this, I like the original design of the scroll, kind of like the rollable experience,
sure,
because I feel for there you were using a full-size phone that worked normally and you expand it to be a tablet. When I held this one, it reminded me a lot of the N2 Fold,
yeah,
the foldable from Oppo, with the ability of jumping into, let's say, a Find X5 Pro in a matter of seconds.
yeah,
By double pressing it, suddenly, and in my video, I show it, I compare it to the Xiaomi 13 Pro,
yeah.
where I have them next to each other, and you see like it's small, and then it's zoop, and it's the
Hmm.
same thing suddenly, and then it's like yoop, and it's right down back there again.
And
You get
and
that
it's
instant
got a
experience.
very classic Star Trek communicator kind of vibe.
Yeah, I felt
It's
like it
got like the
looked.
big chunky bit with like the
Yeah,
little
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that kind of
exactly.
scoops up. You
And that
like
silver
that.
color reminds me a little bit more of the key. The the
Right.
Motorola, not the Motorola, the BlackBerry key. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of nostalgia. They're
There's a
hitting
lot
a
of
lot of good.
classic.
Absolutely. And then of course the one you're showing there, the riser
Hmm.
monitor. That one, it looks like it does look a little bit odd in the picture that you're looking at because you're like, what aspect ratio is that?
Yeah.
It's called tablet mode, man. It it was very much the same design, but I felt like this was a little bit more sturdy, better
This one looks
support.
to me like this could be an actual forward
This could be a
facing, I mean,
thing in a
a
month
consumer
where like
facing. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah, yeah. Way more because of the implementation and how things are in general. I mean, it's a display. It's something not always intended to be touched. Like we don't always have touch
Yeah.
displays on devices. So this could totally be where you just have that real estate suddenly by just pushing a double pressing a
Hmm.
button similarly. And then in that airplane seat that is super, super large, as you can imagine, you're sitting there very short.
Right.
You're not going sideways, you're going lengthways.
Up.
So for me, I always think of like, how can I make this work for me editing videos? Timeline, you know,
Hmm.
the playback feed, absolutely. And you could see it right there. Yeah, it looks amazing. It is absolutely amazing. It's really
I
nice.
mean, and the thing is, like, why I kind of feel a little bit more positive on this as a solution for
Yeah.
how you interact with like a laptop is still a very sedentary
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you can run around with a laptop and be using it, but you're really not using it well. It's meant to like move to a location and then you sit down and you use the laptop, as
Exactly.
opposed to a phone, which is a much more dynamic, handled, moved with, single
In your
hand
pocket.
ki- kind
Yeah.
of gadget.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be exposed to so many more situations where you're kind of abusing the
Yeah.
smartphone.
Yeah.
The reason why I kind of dug on this a little bit more is because you and I have both played with the Nextpad,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
Nextpad
absolutely.
is that standalone sort of portable monitor, but it's built. I mean, you can use it with the phone, and they've got like a little magnetic pad system. You can turn your phone into a tablet that way,
Yeah.
but it's also built to go with like a MacBook Air or a Surface laptop and create a vertical screen that
Which
goes on top of your
Yeah, yeah,
normal
which mirrors
laptop
exactly
screen.
what you're looking at right there. Yeah, yeah.
And so this to me immediately looked recognizable. Like, okay, I really liked the Nextpad.
Yeah.
This visually makes sense for having an over under dual monitor kind of setup, but it's all just one continuous rollable screen.
That's always with you, and you never have to worry about thickness of the laptop or whatever. When it's closed, it closes like a regular size. No, I like I said, this one felt like it was more, like you said, not mainstream, but like ready for actual like usage. You should be
Yeah.
able to buy this within the next few months. I really do not doubt that this is Motorola's way of saying, hey, this is coming soon. Where the
Yeah.
riser was more, hey, we're still trying to figure things out because that even the device I got a chance to check out did not even have a fingerprint sensor. But they, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's to that level. And their
Well,
smart way
you
of showing the camera, by the way, on that device was where the
yeah.
device typically would rise up to give you a bigger phone. When you need the front facing camera for selfie and stuff like that, the display actually rolls a little bit less. It goes
Yeah.
even further down, and then you see the front facing camera to get, to use selfies and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
And I still feel like they've missed an opportunity where if you could roll the screen even lower
Hmm.
behind the phone, then you could just turn it around like the Oppo, how you have a ticker display
Oh no,
that you
they
can
do.
use the camera.
No, 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 they do. That's what I was trying to say. That's what the backside of. If you have a chance to bring up my video, I want to show you real quick this
All right,
little
hold on.
piece.
Let me get it.
On the show floor, most people missed that part because they
Wait a
had
minute,
that
where am I
folded in the
going?
back.
Is it on Instagram?
Instagram, or you could even go to YouTube. It's on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
TheYouTube.com. Let's go there.
the shorts. Yeah, the shorts valor situation going on.
I don't
Um,
do shorts. It's they keep trying to get me with like
oh, just
hey,
to
here are attractive women doing things. TKA.
hey, yeah, that's because that's what the YouTube is. They're trying to do that. So it's yeah, you have to go to the channel and then open up shorts because it doesn't automatically. So it's right there, that top. Yeah, I did a couple of videos. So this is where I was trying to say
Hmm.
before, like you could see the comparison between the two phones. And as you see the like right there, I suddenly am holding two separate, like it was different than before. You could see the thickness. So I was trying to be very like
Yeah.
calculated. But the display actually rolls to the back and is still functioning as a display. You could use it, put
Right.
information on it. And in the bit that I wanted to show, so here, this is where when you play a video, by the way, and you go 16 by 9, it automatically goes and expands. So this is when I turned on the camera and you could see, I'll give it a second here. I can see it
Oh,
myself, and
okay.
then this is where I was in the
I
back.
get it now. So I thought you meant like when the screen like dips that there's a selfie camera on the front. And I get it
There,
now.
yeah, no, there is also a selfie camera on the front, but this is when you were using the main camera. The
Sure, sure,
selfie
sure.
camera where the display coming out drops down, but they have even modes for kids, so that you can get kids to kind of like pay attention. There's like little smiley face in there. They're what's it called? You can also do that preview function where if I'm shooting
Yeah.
myself, you can see yourself on the other side. I just couldn't demo it very clearly. So what I did with that video is I showed you guys what I would look like, and then I flipped it over to her because she was doing the same thing, and I was seeing myself. But it's a 60 minute. It's that's the limitation of shorts. There, you don't get to do the walkthrough. I like
Yeah.
doing long form because I love showing everything. Bring
Yeah.
it to 60 seconds is a challenge. It's a super like right there,
Well,
that one bit, you'll see that in a second. Here
and
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 boom.
oh, look at I see you looking at
Yeah, yeah.
me, shooting
Exactly.
video
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
you, shooting video of
And she was
me.
very nice. Yeah, definitely. Yes. So literally the last second and then expanding and just looks really, really nice. And speakers on it are pretty decent. It's not that bad. I really like it. And it's that tiny, like a little candy bar. It fits in my hand like this. That's how tall the phone is. But yeah. So I tried doing as much as I can. I'm pushing out more and more. Still have a lot of content on my phone that I have not
Hmm.
edited. This is the scary part. But I'm so busy with the whole, the trip and stuff like that. So I'm between times whenever I have this morning, I have a little bit more time after our show. I want to edit up. I did the Stable Diffusion on with Qualcomm. I got a chance to sit down with them
Nice.
and check out their on-device AI unique experience photo, like demanding experience. Like I don't know how to explain it with the exception of think of all of those AI images everybody was like all happy about and wanting to put things together,
Hmm.
but using that type of model and algorithm and processing power, having it run on device and disconnected from the internet on a like something that's as small as a 1 gig model that
Yeah.
runs. And like I asked it questions like, show me streets in Beirut, you know what I mean? Like, a tourist area in Beirut, and it had a decent representation of what it thought Beirut would look like, and the street, and then the Mediterranean look, and all of that. And I even actually had to go, obviously, Dragon Ball. So they did. I'll put the video out today. You'll see
You
what
nerd.
AI thinks Dragon Ball looks like, or what the characteristics are for Dragon Ball, and and things like that. So there was a lot of good things going on. Qualcomm was doing they were showcasing a lot of their existing tech. And I think the biggest thing I
Hmm.
probably will say is they, and we're going to just kind of use that a little bit as a segue, also a little bit more. Um, they were part of the announcement that OnePlus did, talking that they're going to be coming up with their so not rollable, with their foldable.
They're
So they're
foldable.
working on
Yeah.
a foldable for later on the year, and Qualcomm obviously will be powering that technology. Unfortunately, I did not. I missed that part because they didn't really show anything. It was more like
No, I got
conversation
a
wise.
press release that was just like, "Hey, we're gonna make a foldable," and you're like,
Absolutely. Yeah, but no, but
"Cool."
it'll be very similar to the press release if you probably got from Qualcomm talking about the fact that Nothing is working on the Nothing Phone 2 that's going to be powered by the Snapdragon
Hmm.
8. But they didn't say what 8, like they didn't say 8 Gen, they just said 8,
Yeah.
which leads me to start speculating about a whole bunch of different things. But anyways, Carl Pei was there on the show floor, and everybody was there. We got a chance to check it out. We'll talk to him. No devices to be shared, but
Yeah.
they had a lot. They had a lot, and then of course our friends over at MediaTek were doing a lot as well. They were in. They were part of the experience also on OnePlus with their tablet. It's going to be powered by a MediaTek
Hmm.
processor, and they were also powered the. Did you get a chance to play with Techno, the device that has the
No,
pop up? Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm sort of friends adjacent with one of their PR people, so I'm gonna start reaching out and just saying like, "Hey, what's going on with that?" But
Hey.
I haven't worked with them at all. So,
So I got a chance to play on to check out their foldable. They released the foldable,
hmm.
similar style to what we see with like the Fold, the of course with Honor's Magic VS,
Hmm.
and it's powered by a MediaTek processor. So it's really exciting to see MediaTek showcasing
Yeah.
more tech and being really more involved with other companies, and more companies are using their tech. So I was excited about that. Uh, Referencing also is that the N2 Flip from Oppo is powered by MediaTek 9000
Hmm.
9000 plus SoC in there. So it's exciting. It's really nice to see our friends kind of like come up with and be showcased in that manner. And there was a lot more. There was also way more announcements. There's just so much announcement. This is like crazy.
Yeah.
This is the mobile. It's a trade show. It's really nice.
So, what I mean, like, if we were going to put you on the spot, what would
Sure.
you say has been your favorite? I'm going to ask two questions: your
Sure.
favorite announcement and the announcement that most took you by surprise.
My favorite announcement, I would probably say, was the the AR in the concept department. I'm gonna kind of, it's gonna encompass a few things because there's a few things going on. The concepts
Hmm.
at this show were super sexy and super nice. So I will say that
Yeah.
the announcement of concepts in here was definitely very nice. I love that. What caught me by surprise, that is gonna be, that's a little bit tough. That's a little bit tough. I may have to circle back on that one a little bit, but I think if anything, I'll probably say is that I was surprised or caught me that how well the riser was built. I know it kind of
Yeah.
goes back to that because when you see it on picture, when you see it in pictures and when you see it on the stand, and all it keeps doing is expanding and coming back, you don't see the concept functional aspirations,
Hmm.
what it's trying to do. Yet it's cool that it expands, but we've seen that before. That trick isn't new. It's how
Hmm.
functional Motorola and how much work they put in to make it stand out and
Sure.
make it functional. Um, but I will also kind of also throw in and say, I think this is going to be the year of the 1 inch sensor. I'm starting to see, like, we have Xiaomi in here, we have Vivo in there.
With
I,
Xiaomi
I
and Vivo landing it, I feel like it's really arrived
yeah,
because it's always been a thing that Sharp has played with in Japan.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like you're like, this
And
is
now
not that
it's
new, TK. Like, but yeah,
yeah.
and then
Now
it's
it feels legit in a way that we've only just been kind of like, oh well, that's a wacky concept phone that only the Japanese get to play with, and you're like, I've got two on my desk, and you're
yeah.
like, I can't go back to
No, 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 no,
another
no, 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 no.
photography experience. So
It is very hard for me to say that I was like, oh my god, yeah, no, this one, no. You really need to. I will preface it by saying that this is purely a niche. More, I feel like it's still somewhat of a, you need to purposely want to get that
because
experience to
you
go.
have to have a phone with a big old lump on the back
Yeah,
of the
and the price will reflect it.
yeah.
It's still not as, I'm gonna say this is still not the, like, your run of the mill 766 or 765, it's like 50 megapixel camera that we've seen with a lot. And I'm sure
Hmm.
I'm quoting the wrong model number, but the 7 series where it's essentially that 50 megapixels, really good, like very popular,
Yeah.
camera sensor. This is definitely a very big step forward. It is, I think, I'm to quote Juan Carlos Bagnell, if you know the guy, he
Oh,
does a lot of
interesting.
good things.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
bleeding edge technology. This is bleeding edge technology, and I like to bring it circle back to last week's show because it is.
Hmm.
And once you see it and you see how good the V2 processing does, once you see how beautifully designed the system is done, you appreciate what Xiaomi did with the 12S Ultra. And now that
Yep.
obviously that they're able to bring it globally, I think it's crazy. So that would be maybe my surprise, and I'm hoping to see more. I wanted to hear more, but no other announcement of 1 inch sensors were done. We saw the
No.
IMX 800 show up a couple times, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's a
again,
good one.
progress because we're seeing some. I think like Sony has definitely been taking Samsung seriously as
Yeah,
a sensor manufacturer, and when Sony makes camera sensors, they don't mess around.
no,
Like they're
no,
really impressive.
they're really trying to elevate the experience. For me, I got a chance to play with that sensor primarily on the foldable from Samsung,
Hmm.
from Honor. As a camera sensor, it's really nice. Like the 800 series is really good, but again,
It's
yeah,
pretty
like
good.
this is the stuff that you want to enjoy and play, especially if you enjoy photography on your phone. If photography is a big thing for you, even video, not just photos. I feel like that 1 inch
Yeah,
sensor brings in so much more light, so much better composition. It is a shallower depth of field, but you need to treat it like a camera. Once you treat it like a camera, you understand it and
for
you'll
sure.
appreciate what the outputs are from it.
Have you run into how awful the stabilization is? Because someone made a video where the Note 23 was the better choice because the stabilization was a little bit better while shooting 4K video. And obviously, you have the X90 Pro, and you must just be miserable trying to shoot trade show coverage with
Such it was such a
that
miserable
terrible
experience.
stabilization.
It was no, no, seriously, like, So I've shrunk. I did not bring a DSLR or an SLR camera. I did
Isn't
not.
it liberating?
It is
Isn't it
such a
so
liberating experience,
refreshing?
like, where I don't have to lug around. I mean, seriously, my tripod was a Joby Pod. It was not a
Hmm.
tripod. It was literally more about if I really needed to sit there and I needed to be on camera, which I didn't feel like I needed to. The shot that I shared with you was the gentleman that was doing the demo at Oppo's booth. I
Hmm.
said, "Do you mind just holding the phone?" Once you see that video and the quality, like him just literally doing this, it did everything else on its own.
Sure.
It's just crazy for me. Um, but yeah, no, dude, I mean, this is different. I think the experience of having running around with, super, 20, 30 pound bag of tech and stuff like that. I think the days of that are very, very numbered.
Yeah. Well, and
The
for the friends that
DSLR.
we've had who have traveled,
Yeah.
and this isn't just unique to MWC, but
Yeah.
almost every trade show we have a story of one of our coworker compatriots like, oh no, I got mugged. Oh no, my bag got stolen at the airport. Oh no.
Somebody
And
unfortunately got their passport swiped this time. I don't, yeah, it
and
happens
that
every year. Yeah.
we know that's going to happen. I have always felt better knowing like, hey, I could still run the show literally with just the phone in my pocket.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't take an entire backpack worth of gear, but I'd still have coverage out. It might not be the nicest, but it would still get done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if I had solely depended on like proper production cameras and my bag gets stolen, then I'm screwed. Like I'm
So
out of luck.
that was how I covered the show, the first MWC that I went to. I was walking around, I had my camera gear, I had my tripod. Every time I sat down, I had to set up my tripod, I have to push people around,
Hmm.
kind of whole thing. You can't do the whole get in and get out.
Right.
Um, it is absolutely liberating. I think the biggest thing I probably will say, maybe my biggest challenge this year has been how I was. I'm not going to say that it was a bad experience, but it was going to be definitely a challenging experience with my Pixel 7 Pro.
Oh, interesting.
Connectivity for me has been a challenge since I got in it. So just for kind of a little bit of a context, both Juan and I had a video that we pushed out for you guys. If you haven't had to check it out, have a chance to check it out. Juan just pushed out his on the Airalo eSIM service that
Hmm.
just came out. Absolutely banger. I mean, I'm not trying to. They're not paying me anymore. I mean, say it about. I was. It
We
was a
have
sponsored
both
video. Yeah,
we've
it was a
both
sponsored video in the
sponsored
past.
with Aralo, yeah.
Airalo. But this is me after a month of using the service beyond the video. So you just tell me, this is like Juan is at the time of, I'm the 2 months in the future kind of thing. And I have their service installed on my Pixel, on my X90 Pro, and not on the 13 Pro, because Xiaomi doesn't have eSIM on that one, but also on my here on the Honor foldable. Service installation, service coverage is absolutely fantastic. It's the service type that kind of changes depending on where you are, and this is nothing on them. It's more about the service providers and what they're providing in
Sure.
the area. Also, I was obviously in a very congested, uh, I would say, a wirelessly congested environment, although physically
Really,
was
at
also a challenge.
MWC?
No
Huh.
way, no way. So what I decided to do on my Pixel though is because I don't have T-Mobile doesn't do the fast high speed internet anymore
Oh.
package, or at least not on my account. So I was capped at 256K. I needed something to be able to upload pictures, put stuff, and so on. So I installed an eSIM on my Pixel. So I still have my physical SIM and my eSIM. But the combination of the two, always pinging, always working, kept the phone running warm most of my time because the signal was bad and the
Oh,
phone was always looking for
yeah.
signal. So it was always like a continuous, like battery life was not the best. But what got me though is that it warmed up enough that at some point even the camera locked up. I was in the
Oh
middle of the booth with
no.
Oppo and I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, no. I was like shocked. I had to restart the phone and it worked after. It only happened once, but it was more like I've never thought like the 6 Pro, I feel like I did more for me that than the 7 Pro. I feel like the 7 Pro has been a solid performer.
Hmm.
And then in the pictures I posted last night from the Camino del Rey were from my Pixel. They were just
Yeah.
straight up. I mean, the phone is absolutely fantastic at photography. And it is, again, we've talked about this in the past. My SIM card is in the Pixel. So I use
Hmm.
it, but I've never had it lock up on me in the show floor. I'm like, oh my God, I don't like this. This is like, I wish I could
Well,
just easily jump out, but yeah.
and I understand that Google has chosen Samsung as their big partner for a lot
Yeah.
of this tech, but
Worse. Yeah.
I mean, let's point
It's
to some of the really solid advancements in modems and radios, and not just
absolutely.
from Qualcomm, but like that's been a huge area of growth for MediaTek
Mhm.
as well. And I kind of feel like if there's a weak spot on the Pixel, that is a perfect, sort of a
It just it's a challenge that they need to that we haven't really been able to surpass. The heating or the warming of the device when you use it for some time is still there. The case does provide a little bit of protection. I don't. It doesn't really bother me in the sense of because there's no impact on performance. The phone was running fine. Everything was great.
yeah.
It was just about after Oppo. I think on day one, Oppo had a press conference like around 2:30 or so local time, and they
Hmm.
announced a whole bunch of new tech like coolers and stuff like that. Like, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about that cooler too, which is really interesting tech. But I went out to look for the cooler and I was trying to take pictures of it and take the pictures of the spec sheet and so on. And I got pictures of everything. When I got the spec sheet, the camera just basically went black on me, and I couldn't. There, no front facing, no rear facing camera. It was just not working. I held the phone. The phone was definitely warmer,
Hmm.
and I just restarted it and everything worked fine since then. I haven't had another hiccup, but it was just like of all the times they had to get this on the show floor. Like had I not obviously had other devices I could just
Well,
jump in with, it would have
but
been
I
a
think
definitely a
what
challenge.
you're describing here kind of helps showcase when we're talking about some more advanced use, running dual SIM and having your phone trying to keep up with
Always
double the
paying
data stream, always making that connection.
and running
You
it
know,
all
I
and yeah.
I don't really feel like, especially as an American, like I put a SIM card in my phone and I connect to a T-Mobile tower and I've got service and it's great.
Yeah, in the US it works.
It's it's it's
We're
when you
spoiled.
drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also kind of
In
like,
spots, yeah, no. If you
yeah,
leave
in
LA,
ways.
once
In
you
other
leave LA,
ways, like,
TK, you're like, not
in,
really.
in our mobile market, we could be spoiled more. I'd be fine with being more spoiled in our mobile market options in competition too.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, if you're dealing with a slightly less efficient radio on one SIM, you're likely not going to notice the direct or immediate issue with having a modem or a radio that's less efficient. When you double that communications load, that totally makes sense to me. Like, now that would manifest as a way that would drive the phone less stable.
Yeah.
But without getting harping on that too much, because I just finished up my sort of sponsored video, but the entire time I've been chatting with the Aralo folks, I've been grabbing SIMs for
Mhm.
devices just for these short little bursts of, hey, I want to take it out and I just want to do this and I don't want to have to like switch cards. And it really has been handy. I know, like, we're gadget reviewers, so we go through a ton of phones, but immediately I thought of my daughter's tablet can take an eSIM. Like,
Mhm.
we could use that as like the next time we go on a road trip.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that could be a little bucket of
very
data so that
à la
she can,
carte.
like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the big appeal with Airalo is the fact that it is more of an à la carte, and not you're not married to this relationship.
yeah,
You want a gig, you want 2 gigs, you want 3 gigs, bam, you're running low, top off. And when I'm done, I get rid of it. I don't have to worry.
yeah.
I think for me, for the longest time, we've always had the situation where I always relied. I mean, for me at least, I relied on Fi. I would jump on Google
Hmm.
Fi, activate my Google Fi SIM,
Yeah,
I
I still have a
travel.
Fi account. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's usually about like a $70 or so bill for that month because you're going to be using that data and you have a data cap. It's definitely beneficial. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to use a lot of data, Fi is still the way to go. Raulo can get expensive if you start adding.
Yeah.
But for the like I relied heavily on the hotel room for large file uploads. Like for my videos that I posted, all of those were uploading on the hotel Wi-Fi because I'm not going to leverage that on my phone. If I needed to, I
Hmm.
would. But the biggest thing that I would probably say with their service is the ease of use. And once I started using it, I realized that like for devices that don't have it, I felt like, why would you not have it in 2023? Like even as a side
Hmm.
option, you don't need to make it your main interface. You just turn that
Yeah.
on if you need it. And that was where my surprise was the 13 Pro. I wanted to activate it on the 13 Pro because I wanted to drive my experience with it on the show floor, and it doesn't support eSIM for me. And I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's kind of rough.
But I ran hotspot on it. So Airalo doesn't limit how you use your data. So you can
Yeah.
turn on tethering, and I was tethering it
I
to
was
the
gonna say
Pixel.
they're not gonna hold you back because
No,
they want you to
they wanted to
top
buy
off
more.
and buy
Yeah.
more. data. So
but
you
it's
want to tether? Go tether. That's
have
great.
fun. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Tether a whole family. Do it.
And and they do a really decent job also of reminding you when you're getting close to empty
Yeah.
to low, like around 25%. So you get a notification in the app and you get a notification via email. Again, not this is not a sponsored bit. I'm not. I'm just I'm showing you, or I want to kind of like more of a testimonial of how well that service
Well,
works
in
good
that
for us.
we go from just like, hey, I kind of used it a little bit so I could shoot a YouTube video of how to set it up, and that's a sponsored
Well,
video. It
yeah, yeah.
really has just
Mhm.
become a field testing product for us.
Same here. For me,
Like,
any phone that I
yeah,
need to do, I don't have to worry about calling T-Mobile, put in a SIM. I buy a $5, $7 SIM card, and then for the duration that I'm using that device, I have internet on it. I don't have to worry
yeah,
about a SIM card. So it's a nice it's a nice to have, and for devices mostly, like for me on the Pixel, I didn't lose my Pixel SIM card. I was still using my main SIM on T-Mobile. I just
yeah.
switched internet to Airalo. My calls and text messages were still kind of coming out on my
And
main SIM card. So
isn't it just
that's
kind of funny because we're describing something, and again, because a good chunk of our audience is American, we're
yeah,
sort of like spoon feeding the use case on something that like it feels like the whole rest of the planet is so far ahead of us on
they've
like
been
the
doing
dual
that for a
sim
while. Like, yeah,
capability and stuff, and we're
switching
just
SIMs,
now like,
different countries, and
hey
yeah.
guys, us too.
Well, no,
I
but
want
even
to play.
carriers in Europe, they provision their services in different ways. Like
Yeah.
O2 is in many, many countries, and you can buy a regional plan with them, where if you're traveling from London down to Barcelona,
Hmm.
you're gonna get internet service just as good as you were back at home. That's how I did it back in the day. I would buy like an unlimited SIM in the UK, or a buddy of mine would get me one. And when I land in Barcelona, we just use that for data and leverage and keep our internet connection. But at the time, you'd have to have a
Yeah.
phone that supported dual SIM. Now, I mean, technically, the Pixel does support. It's an
Yeah.
eSIM form, so it is
For
nice.
sure.
It's absolutely, like I said, it's demanding, and maybe with a few more optimizations, the Pixel can definitely handle it a little bit better. But
I
yeah,
I feel I really like the Pixel. I'm
yeah,
still heavily recommending the Pixel for the type of consumer who is going to appreciate the software first experience,
yeah,
Google services, using the assistant, and having the absolute easiest camera to shoot on. But we've got a point to like what the Pixel does well, it does really well. I don't know that you can software update yourself out of Samsung SoC with a
yeah.
Samsung radio
Mhm.
running less efficiently, compounding some of those performance issues when you're trying to drive data hard from multiple sources.
Multiple
And that's
sources and
that's
driving the
where
device also.
Qualcomm
Yeah.
is really tough to compete against because they're the radio telecommunications company, and even MediaTek seems to be doing this better than Samsung is in this generation of
We'll have to
device.
see how Tensor or what Google's approach is going to be with the third generation when it come around. Uh,
Yeah.
the Other than that one hiccup, otherwise though, it's been an amazing device. I think my experience at the time was more about it was go 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 go, and we're talking about a
Sure.
full day of
Oh yeah.
pictures, video, B-roll, all the way going around trying to grab data content because it's all about timing. The day starts in the morning and you're like, oh yeah, I have tons of time. And then before you know it, it's 6 o'clock and they're like showing
Yeah.
you out. I'm like, what
Right.
happened?
Oh. Huh.
Seriously, like, like, where did time go? And this is where, like, you get so much information overload. Like, as a single creator or a content creator that does not have a team that's covering the show floor, we're like, yeah, you go there, and I'll do this, and then we'll meet later, and we'll just,
Right.
share notes.
No, it's all
It's
you,
crazy.
and you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
got to
yeah.
run.
Exactly, and this is why I'm saying, like, I have so much stuff still sitting here that I have, like the Oppo glasses. I have the footage. I have to put it together. So this is my literally my this morning before our program starts up again with the team here over with Oppo.
Hmm.
It's going to be yeah. I want to put some things in there. I want to put schedule some stuff and put some reels.
Well,
Yeah.
I do want to say, like if we're going to talk about running warm, and you've been hanging out with the Oppo folks,
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure they
Definitely.
have some kind of conversation about a technology for products that can help them run cooler.
My God, it was okay. So maybe
Segway.
if I had to hit segues, it's like for the win. Oh my god, you're so good at this. You're much better than I am, sir. Um,
I host podcasts all the time. I
all
know
the
how to
time.
segue. It's great.
I'm glad I'm with the professionals, sir. I always appreciate it. Yeah, no, so Oppo did make an announcement on one piece of tech that I was surprised to hear about. Like, I never really
Mhm.
thought about like talking about. Okay, I'll say it. I haven't heard about this prior to maybe if you were like watching a Linus video, right? Linus Tech
Sure.
Tip loves to do water cooling and they have obviously
Yeah.
PCs and so on. But Oppo put out to put in I guess an announcement talking about their water cooling tech, which it essentially is basically a pump and water cool base that sits, and it also provides charging capabilities to your device, and it runs a basically kind of like our GameSir cooling pad that
Yeah.
sits or clamps to the back of your device. What really surprised me though is that although it was announced as an Oppo tech, it was demoed as a OnePlus piece of hardware. So OnePlus had the active one. So first, we'll start with this one. This one is basically their first implementation. This is a concept one, not concept one. This is the concept OnePlus 11. And this tech essentially is not, these are not LEDs. You need to be aware that what you're
Yeah.
looking at on the back of this device is actual liquid moving throughout the pipeline to try to cool the device over the batteries, around the cameras in the back. And initially, when I looked at it, it was like, wait, what's the point of an LED? Like, it's going to cool it. No, yeah,
Well,
you're looking at actual,
last week we were speculating on
yeah,
what
yeah.
the OnePlus concept would be, and we were like, well, I guess if they're ripping off the Nothing phone, you can make glyphs or RGBs on the back of your
We
phone.
thought, yeah,
We
it
all had
absolutely
it
thought,
wrong.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
all
We
had this
honestly,
wrong.
I thought it was going to be just LEDs, and it was like no
Yeah.
TK. So this is when you look at the actual materials going up and down, and it's providing that cooling. So that technology was, I think it's a good approach to try to cool a device. It's a concept, of course, which may or may not exist. It may or may
Hmm.
not happen actually in the near future. OnePlus did demo it. It's based on top of a phone that we both enjoyed playing with, which is the OnePlus 11. Same hardware on the internals in there, but definitely looks really
Sure.
nice. And it's not that much thicker. That's the weird part about it. It's not that
Yeah.
much thicker.
It looked
It's
like they
like,
just closed some of the gap on the camera module. Like it
yeah, a little
looks
bit. It still has that little
pretty
bit of a
much the
raised bump
same.
on the back, but they added some of the cooling around it. So they keep, because as you can imagine, also camera sensors can definitely get
Yeah.
warm when you're pushing them a lot. So overall, promising is somewhere between 2 to 2.1 degrees lower, better frame rate, obviously. But there was no way of demoing that. All of that was primarily just to
Yeah.
show the concept of that. They did, though, at the same time as announcing this device, they announced their collaboration with Qualcomm on the Qualcomm Spaces, and that the OnePlus 11 was going to be like the first device to do that. So that was an exciting thing. I kind of
Nice.
like a little bit of surprise out of left field. To top it off, they also had like I said, that active cooling brick, which I think this one I'm going to have to show on my phone because I have the video, but I don't have the tech for it yet. I didn't put it out. It's like TK type problems. I don't know why, but like, let's do this one. Hold on. Let's see if I can get this one. So here. So, yeah, the color on this one's going to be horrible. It's not going to work. Yeah.
Still just trying to find your face.
Yeah.
Maybe just make it
No.
big.
So here, let's see. Can we do this one? Well, actually, no. Okay. So this is the actual picture itself. So you can see where is the cooling pad, the brick itself with the water
Hmm.
pump built into it. It goes on the back of a phone. Obviously, I'm over exaggerating putting it on a OnePlus concept because I felt like this would be the worst thing I could definitely do to make it look like, hey, we're gonna cool the cooler. It's like that's
Right.
just 50 Shades of Baked. Ah man, Michael Pepper tech always. So this is the tech that Oppo announced on stage, and then lo and behold, OnePlus had it sitting on their table, on top of the
Nice.
concept phone. So a lot of cool tech in more ways than one. Hey, welcome back to the show. My camera. Did you do the zooming, or was that my camera doing the zooming? I think that it did.
I switched you back, so you went from
Okay,
full screen to like I think as I switched you back, then your camera also like
readjusted.
punched
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
It
yeah.
looked like a really fluid camera move,
I
like we had a producer
I'm
doing.
using this
So
the Insta 360 Link camera, their webcam based camera that they have,
hmm.
and it actually surprisingly it's been working nice. I had some issues with it on my PC, but on the Mac for some reason it's working fine. Which by the way, I'm running on a Mac now as my till I can
Oh,
fix
Mr.
my
Fancy.
fancy pants. Uh, somebody called me fancy pants. So like, no, definitely an exciting show full. We got a chance to see the keyboard. The OnePlus keyboard
Hmm.
couldn't touch it, but we saw it. Um, there's a lot of like I feel like it's like I
There's
want
a
to say
lot of that.
like I've traveled so far, but I can only look. I'm like, okay, so what's the difference between this and a picture? No,
Yeah.
the design looked really nice. It looks high quality, and the
Hmm.
little dial that they had on the top right actually looked pretty exciting. Again, I have the footage. I got to put it together. It's crazy. I had oh my god. When I was thinking about how much stuff I had, I'm not gonna lie, I legit panicked at some points because I was like, how am I doing all of this? How is it possible for one person to cover this entire show with
It's
all of the
not.
stuff? So no, so it's going to end up being that trickle effect through the week of me pushing out different things here and there, and then hopefully people enjoying what they're looking at. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a big show. Xiaomi brought it. OnePlus did it. Motorola, for the most part, with the concept, I think that was their biggest thing. But Honor decided to go big time too. They had their own launch event. Sorry, on day one of the I was going to say unpacked of MWC on the show. Mixing things. It's a little bit early for me, and that thing I drank is definitely not coffee. Um,
Yeah.
I don't. It's like
Even if it
I
were a coffee pod, it's still pod coffee, so it's not going to
yeah.
be
I
great.
no no. As soon as we're done, I think what I'm probably going to do is just go down and grab some coffee from
Yeah.
downstairs because that's usually where they have the good stuff, anyways.
Oh yeah.
Um, but
Oh, the Spaniards know good coffee.
oh,
So
good
you're
coffee and
in, yeah.
amazing olive oil. Oh my god, the olive oil experience is here. Oh my god, yes. If there's
Oh
anything I
yes.
say is, I'll say the biggest thing that surprised me on this entire trip, especially for the Malaga part of it, is the presence of, and I knew there's a lot of Arabic influences in Spain because of
Hmm.
the region
Oh
was
yeah.
originally back in the colonized also, and there was a massive Arabic culture here. Like even the hotel I'm staying at has Arabic writings in there,
Hmm.
like actual Arabic writing in there. Like I'm walking, like, wait, am I in Spain? Did we go to
Hmm.
Morocco? They're like, no, 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 you're in Spain. We didn't go that far. You have to cross the
Yeah,
Mediterranean to
but
get to
you're,
Morocco.
yeah, but I mean, you're as south as you can go before you have to
You're
cross the Mediterranean.
exactly, exactly, and it was just
Oh,
like
and the
really,
food. It is
oh
such
my
that
god,
beautiful fusion of like kind of
it's
Basque and
uh
French and Mediterranean.
yeah,
Oh,
and
I
I will
miss
say
that.
I have had my I've had enough shares of paella. I've had paella, all seafood and one
I'm not a
chicken.
huge seafood fan, but when you can like see them pulling it out of the ocean with your
Yeah,
eyes, you're like,
yeah.
oh, this is I'm in for a treat.
You're in
This
for
is gonna
fresh.
be
Yeah, freshness is the
delicious.
key, and the Mediterranean is just absolutely fantastic. I just to me it also kind of plays a big role because I grew up on the Mediterranean. So to me, this is where I know and I kind of thrive. I'm on the opposite side of the Mediterranean from where I grew up,
Yeah.
but it was nice. If Reds have coffee, they'll be printing news and it'll say, yeah, no, the French press.
Stay away from the French
That's right.
press, right? Michael
Watch out,
Peppertech.
man. Always,
So
always.
I love like whenever I pull up one of the comments on the chat. For anyone who does listen to the audio version of this, I like
Oh, yeah.
that TK kind of skims. He doesn't tell you who wrote it, and he doesn't even finish saying the comment, but he'll get about three-quarters of the way through it, then react to what he's reading. So you never get in the audio version the
That
actual
that it
comment
is
because TK's just so
Michael's
tickled.
commentary. Yeah. Well, because
But
it lands. His jokes land. This is the thing, and
yes, they land
that's what
when
it is.
you finished the
Yeah, I
joke.
know. I'm reading ahead. That's the problem. My eyes are
I,
finishing the conversation.
for
My mouth is
for
just
for
not as fast. Yeah.
for people who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, Michael Peppertech in our comments writes, "I wonder if France ever writes about coffee in the printed news, or does it stay away from the French press?" And I just he's got delightful little puns, and I enjoy them.
Touche, my
So,
friend. Touche. But yeah,
well,
no.
it sounds like you've been having a good time, and that's I think
Absolutely.
where we've been really anxious over trade shows and what to do, and like how does this industry start to redefine its relationship with consumers, I think is
Yeah.
still a monstrous challenge.
Hmm.
And I think 2023 is going to be a really difficult year for a lot of manufacturers. Like, we overbought tech to a huge degree during the pandemic, and now
Yeah.
we've got to figure out like new
That
sales
course
numbers,
correction. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
we've got to make a huge market adjustment. So I'm really glad to hear that the manufacturers, the showrunners, the trade shows, that they're
Yep.
trying to find that excitement again. And I think over another year of experimenting with what is the next phase, this might actually be that transition point that we've needed. I
Yeah.
really feel like we've been stagnant on, I have a rectangle with a screen and I interact through that, and that's my data and services and information and everything. And now it seems like we'll finally be interested in, like, well, what's going to get consumers interested in paying attention to us again?
Yeah. Yep.
We actually need to we actually need to innovate, and we need to move the needle on what the next phase of experiences should be.
Exactly. Exactly. And actually, speaking of which, I would love to hear. So from what I would probably say is maybe it's a good way for us to segue over to talk a little bit more about like the technology that we both got a chance to play with a little bit
Sure.
when it comes down to Samsung. And as we're doing this, I do want to say, um, lastly, Honor had a lot of things going on. Yep, the S. Sorry, I keep wanting to call the Note
It's the
23
Note
Ultra.
23.
It is the
Yeah.
Note 23 Ultra. Honor did have a couple. I did have a video drop up on Honor's Magic VS, their global
Hmm.
launch of their foldable,
Yeah, it looks real
and
good.
the Honor Magic 5 Pro is also going to be a video on that will be coming out soon. Hopefully, as soon as I'm able to kind of figure out how things are and actually use it, because I didn't even boot it up. Let's just say that I was able to get my hands on the unit, which I want to say thank you very much to Honor for that. I typically don't expect to bring hardware back with me, but this was definitely very nice. A very nice surprise to be able to get. And the color is really, really nice. I got a chance to play with a version of this phone, of this device, back in London a few weeks ago when I was there with Oppo. I
Hmm.
had a lunch with their PR company representative, and they brought out the phone. So it's exciting. It's exciting
Nice.
to see what they have. But I want to hear your thoughts on the best camera on on the show in the world. So please go ahead and enlighten me.
The best do you know why? Because it's got so many megapixels.
I think that's the big
I
thing.
mean,
I think
you've
I've
been
heard of those
shooting with that
numbers.
Vivo, and that only has 50 megapixels,
I know
and that's not
it's
enough.
only as one fourth of a percent, one fourth as good. It's just I should just put
Yeah,
it away.
it's one quarter as good, and
Yeah,
that's not very good. I mean, if you had one quarter of of the correct answers on a test, that would be a failing grade.
yeah. That's not even like a D, man. That's not
All
even
right,
an F.
I'm
But
being real snarky because I feel Samsung marketing actually does a huge disservice to their own customer base.
yeah,
Here's like, in getting to handle the Note 23, and it is a Note.
yeah,
It is not an S phone, not in design, not in features, not in hardware. There's no reason why this should be called an S phone, especially since it has a pen that you
yeah.
take notes with. It is a Note. And I'm not going to let that joke go, because I think Samsung does a huge disservice when the vast majority of their coverage and advertising is going to be on their most expensive option. And then a
Mhm.
consumer is going to hear Galaxy S is the best Android. And then they're going to walk into their carrier and they're going to try and buy the cheapest Galaxy S that they can buy. And
Thinking
it's a
they're getting the same thing.
completely different phone.
Yeah,
There is no part of that phone that is the same.
yeah, yeah.
And that really bothers me. My frustrations with Samsung as a manufacturer, as a political entity, as a company that's trying to destroy right to repair in the United States, if we compartmentalize that, and that you're supporting some business practices that I think are reprehensible, and some marketing that I think borders on bullying
Hmm.
other consumers, um, yeah, the Note 23 is going to be one of the best productivity phones of the year.
Yep.
This is really easy. If
Sorry,
you
just
want
for
your
reference, yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
got
sure.
mine over on the side. Yeah,
If you want your pocket computer to be a computer, this is the crown jewel option. It is one of the most expensive ways
hmm,
that you can achieve this functionality, but it's genuinely going to be that presence in the market where, if you're buying a phone just because you want to show that you spent a lot of money, no one's going to care.
yeah,
Don't buy this phone. Like, we are generationally working with people who only recognize Apple devices as being fashion statements.
yeah.
This is not going to be a fashion statement. You're not going to impress anybody. Don't spend $1,200 just so that you could show people that you spent $1,200, because that's not a thing in Android land anymore.
Yeah.
But
I'm
when
with
you
you.
pick up this phone and you try to work with it, it is it is more consistent. it's still not one of the fastest phones of the year. Like, it's getting paced pretty hard by significantly less expensive iQOOs and OnePluses.
Hmm.
It does have some gaming performance that's, depending on how you benchmark a game, a MediaTek
Yep.
could be rolling with this phone. This whole Samsung Snapdragon for Samsung thing, I think, again, is a problematic marketing issue. But especially if you're coming from an Exynos, this is going to be a really good year
Oh,
to buy
absolutely.
Samsung.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest recommendation for this device, especially for anybody in the international market that was used to using Exynos, and if they dealt with any growing pains, I would say with the Exynos lineup over the last few years, this is definitely a big win. For overall, I think for productivity, for functionality, everything on the Note is very much consistent across what we've seen in earlier generations. The
Hmm.
S Pen functionality is on point. The
Sure.
cameras for me are
I mean, tell me it doesn't feel almost identical to the Note
it
22
it
in
for
so many
yeah,
ways. Yeah.
in many ways in the things that I was using it. I mean, there's a few things I can point to. Maybe stabilization was definitely maybe a little bit better on this, but it wasn't something that I typically do. Like when I did the vlog with it, I wanted to kind of use it in a way where I was trying to leverage things that I wouldn't, I was wanting to take people with me on a day, but I typically don't walk around and vlog. I don't, and I think even Josh in the video kind of points out, like the whole time he's like, TK, you should be taking videos. You should be doing this. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to do that because I was trying to make um,
Right.
right before MWC, it's crazy how to say this happened, but I had a quick 24-hour trip to New York. And when I say
Yeah.
quick, I'm going to say a quick, brutal trip to New York for our friends over at Realme that were basically meeting us up in New York and giving us a little bit of a teaser on their brand new device. So I decided to do a vlog with that. And it held its own, editing and everything on there, taking pictures,
Yeah.
taking videos, all of that worked great.
It's
But
good.
it doesn't like I think I could have done the whole thing with an S22 Ultra. Most people wouldn't have even picked up on it.
Yeah.
I think the improvements in the cameras on the front are a little bit more tangible. They did have a better sensor here, definitely going in down to a bigger 12 megapixel sensor
Yeah.
for the low light
I
improvement.
mean, again, we would want to
But
say,
it,
I feel like they kind of copied Sony. Like,
yeah,
Sony finally took those criticisms on their selfie shooter seriously, and
yeah, yeah, and I think
that's
this is where we're at. We're
Samsung has kind of followed suit, which is good,
yeah,
but
but it
it's difficult to move the needle on a phone this expensive from
yeah.
a company that touts market leader and brand innovation and arrive at an experience that I feel like someone on a Note 20
Oh yeah,
might still pick this up and go, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit better, but I don't know that I needed to flip my Note 20 for this."
yeah, and I think
Like,
it's the
it's
biggest thing
better.
is yeah.
It's better all around, but it's not so much better that the effort of flipping your phone and getting no money for your trade-in
Well, yeah, like the Note
and
20
setting
now
up
is
a
like
new
down to a
device.
couple of hundred even. Because we were
Yeah.
debating, I felt like this was maybe getting to the point where it was right time for my wife to upgrade from the Note 20 to like the latest edition Note. Because
Right.
my goal was essentially once I was, I'll say it, once I was done with the Note 20 Ultra, that 23 Ultra, is to have her because she likes the Note. I'll say that she enjoys using the S Pen. That functionality for her is absolutely key.
I
Um,
love the S Pen. I
yeah,
love
no,
having a stylus. I got so
it's a
nerdy about the LG and the
yeah, the
Moto for
stylo, yeah, yeah.
having styluses.
No, 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 and that's the biggest thing. It's like you appreciate the technology and for what it's worth,
Yeah.
and you use it on the daily, and I think that's the biggest win. So,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to convince her that she should change because the Note 20 is starting to show a little bit her the age, and she's running out of storage too. That's the other thing. Although,
Yeah.
yeah, she technically has an SD card. I can expand her storage. I don't have to
Yeah.
buy a whole new phone. There's a lot of conversations. I think like overall, I think Dex is still pretty good. The
Yeah.
processing power is good, although throttled 90% of the time.
It's
It
it
you're
is
never
so
really
managed.
using
Yeah.
you're really not using like the
We
So
have
here's the
seen
thing.
the
They
Gen 2 push to its limits, and we
Yeah,
know what this SoC is capable of.
absolutely.
And I'm not saying you need to try and figure out a way to give me red magic levels of performance because you
No,
don't
no,
have
absolutely.
active cooling,
And
but
you
a
want to be able to manage it. Yeah.
$650 iQOO is pacing this phone and beating it in a lot of these head-to-head kind of performance tests and comparisons. And I do not put any stock in someone is out there who wants to spend $1,200 on an Android and is barely technologically functional using this thing at its lowest level tier where they're not going to care about things like is it more performant? Does it really get work done faster? Does it game better? What
Yeah.
are we doing? Because a Note should be that boldest
It
statement of a slap
exactly.
phone from Samsung.
When it comes to productivity, it should be the productivity king. And that's the big cool about it is you're spending enough money
Mm-hmm.
that you're not going to buy a laptop because you should be able to do everything you want to do out of it on this device. And for the most part, it does, like I said. But
Yeah.
does it make a strong enough of an argument to say this is better than the S22 Ultra? Not necessarily. Even if we kind of go a little bit further to the S21 Ultra, performance wise, it's not that much difference because the SoCs have improved incrementally. But I will say that this is the most refined that you'll ever find a Samsung product put together.
Yeah.
It's the design, it's the performance, we're not trying to say that we're harping on it. It's not a bad phone. It's a
Yeah.
good phone. It does
I
everything great.
it's like I
It's
need to
just
hold people's hands every single time I talk
yeah,
about this because the end of this discussion is it will be one of the best phones of
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
year.
we're
That
not
is
knocking it. Yeah,
that is
I want
not
you guys to
in
get it.
any kind of debate. That is not a
No,
question.
no, yeah,
This is easily delivered fact.
yeah,
But for that easily delivered,
delivered.
it will be one of the best phones of the year. I still find Samsung still makes a lot of very frustrating and confusing UI choices.
Yeah,
I had the camera crash, so it finally did run. It failed to do the newest One UI update twice.
okay,
I finally got it to run that new UI, One UI update,
yeah, yeah,
and then getting it on a fresh reboot. Hold on, I might even have it on. Yeah, getting it on a fresh reboot. Immediately, camera failures. So Samsung keeps getting this nod from other tech reviewers like, well, isn't it so great that they're going to give you all of these software updates and isn't that what you care about? I've not had any camera failures on my Vivo or my OnePlus or my iQOO.
yeah,
Nothing crashing like this. And if you remember last year, in an early software state, I could make the Note 22 camera crash
hmm
by zooming in too aggressively. If it switched camera lenses in that first like 2 months of software, you could get the Note 22 to crash
yeah. It
pretty
was still growing. A
consistently.
lot of growing pains going on with that one.
So
Yeah,
we keep giving Samsung a pass on things that we would freak out about on a OnePlus.
yeah,
Look at like OnePlus criticisms where people are like, oh, but I don't like how you swipe notifications in one direction and it does something different. Why can't it just be like others? And like, I'm dealing with major component failures in early software that I dealt with the year before, and
hmm
which I didn't have camera crashes on the Note 20 or the S21, but those apps ran like garbage
yeah.
in the earliest months of the
It
phone's existence.
it
So
takes
it's
a
like I know
few.
this phone won't be baked
Mhm.
until what, like April?
I
And
think
then we'll
we need a couple
finally
more.
start
Yeah,
feeling like it's a consistent platform. But why are we launching this phone with the same issues that its predecessor had?
yeah,
I just don't understand why we keep seeing this kind of instability. I mean, like, again, I love showing this because you can see I was trying to do another shot of the stuffed dog in my office and I
camera.
screenshotted
Yeah,
the camera fail just because I was trying to like compare it against the telephoto sensor on the Pixel 7 Pro. You know
yeah.
what camera hasn't crashed on launch for me is a Pixel 7 Pro.
It's The reality is most manufacturers have issues initially at launch. There's
Yes,
no because it's such
that
a
is
big
totally
race,
fair.
it's such a big race
What
to get to
bothers
day
me
one.
is 3 generations. This is the third generation of having funky camera
It's the
instabilities
one
at launch.
UI, their one UI
And this is like
implementation has
the
been,
big thing
yeah.
that they're talking. This is what makes it different than the Note 22 is
Hmm.
having this new camera.
Yeah,
And
the new main
that's what
sensor.
bothers me. It's Sam's it's again, I want to be fair. I don't think I should be more fair to Samsung than to other manufacturers. So
Yeah.
if it's going to bother you that a OnePlus sometimes has bugs, you should never buy anything. You should
You need to
never buy
accept it.
any
Yeah,
gadget.
and I don't
They
think
all have bugs. But this
it's
this is
always, yeah.
why I get so lit up about. Sorry, I know I'm stepping all over you, buddy, and you're early in the morning here,
Oh,
and I'm
no, no, no,
lit up
no,
at night.
absolutely. I'm actually finally up at 7 a.m. For me. Like we're finally, I'm catching up to you on time wise. You're going to sleep. I'm about to just start my day.
But
Again, in
but
SpongeBob's
it
main
just
room. But
bothers
yeah.
me that we're gonna freak out about a change to the OnePlus notification shade. But
Hmm.
there are other quirks in here too. Like it really bothers me how imprecise Samsung's focusing system still is. So it's gotten way better since the original
The
S20
S22
Ultra.
had a better one because it got a chance to spend time with it.
It,
It's more like the first and second gen of a sensor. But yeah,
but Samsung doesn't tell you how their focus optimizer works, which is a stupid name because what focus optimizer does is switch you to the macro lens. It switches
yeah,
you to the ultra wide lens when you're too close to your subject.
yeah. It pops up
That's
the
just an
ultra wide for the
auto
macro experience. Yeah,
it's just an auto macro mode. But they call it focus optimizer. And there isn't a setting in there. What you get is the first time you move too close to your subject, a little yellow dot shows up on your screen, and
says
you just
macro.
have to know
So you have
that
to tap
that's
it.
focus optimizer, and you have to know what focus optimizer means because it's not macro mode. There's no conveyance. There's nothing instructing the user this is what's going on. And Samsung's autofocus is so finicky at its closest minimum focusing distance. I did the comparison where I was shooting on an X80 Pro and X90 Pro. I actually did shoot with the Xiaomi 12S Ultra and the Xiaomi 13 because just because I wanted data. The
Hmm.
main focus was going to be Vivo X90 Pro versus Note 23. No phone switched to the ultra wide except the Note. I'm at a distance where you're almost at like a head and shoulder shot. So like if you were holding the phone out about I can't show you
Arms
in
like,
my
yeah,
arms,
yeah, no, no, arms not. Yeah, essentially when
but
you're taking a
like
selfie. Yeah, like,
not even full arm's length, like
oh,
elbow bent. So
okay.
just enough of a distance where you would be real tight crop, top of your head, and just the bare top of your shoulders.
Yeah,
There is no reason for any phone to switch to a macro mode at this distance.
no,
No other phone did this. But
yeah.
the first shot I took with the Note 23 looked like ass because it switched to the ultra wide. No depth of field, flat, terrible color
Which
in
is
the
also
office. I
because,
had
yeah, the setup that they have on most devices will end up going with is they typically give you that one main sensor to live with, and the ultra wide is not going to perform as good. Yes, you can shoot 4K 60 with it. Yes, you could do a lot of the same
yeah,
functional things in video, but
great.
it's a different
Very good.
calibration, it's a different approach, and it's not what you were shooting for. It should not be this auto, like you said, the distance that you had, macro should never time. The only
Should
time macro
never have
should
ticked
even
on.
make sense is if you're on the phone and you're like this, you're getting close enough to the subject, and then
Right.
that's when you want macro to poop, pop in front of you and jump into that,
And with
as
these
opposed
bigger
to
sensors, we know that there's a longer minimum focusing distance
it
than where
is
we were
absolutely.
like 2 or 3 generations ago. So it's not that.
Yeah,
It's every other phone got the distance right, and Samsung's autofocus
it needs to,
couldn't
it,
figure it
yeah,
out.
it still needs tuning, and you need to have, if you're going to get into it at this point of the game, you need to accept that this is a growing pain, and it
Yeah.
happens every generation. Samsung's
And if
typically
we're
will
going to
have a
be
major,
that accommodating to the
yeah,
company with the most resources,
we have to
making the
be,
biggest claims,
yeah,
with all of these promises about software and improvements and new technology, and look, our camera's so good that we got Ridley Scott to shoot a movie with it.
yeah.
If all of that's going to be being fair to Samsung, man, OnePlus deserves so much more credit. Motorola deserves
Deserves
so
so
much
much
more
more. Yeah,
credit.
yeah, no, no, I'm with you.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like because I've not had these generationally consistent issues with every launch. I have different problems with every launch of a OnePlus. I
Yeah.
have the same problems with every launch of a
It's a
Samsung.
very it's frustrating. No, no, I hear you. I hear you. It's always going to be this little thing. And for me, I'll say my biggest thing with Samsung devices have always been where early devices, like you get the pre-orders, the device runs super, super fast, internet-wise, connectivity, all of that stuff. Everything's like blazing
Yeah.
all over the place. And then there's that one update when they optimize for the battery performance because it starts realizing that it's draining too much battery. And then you start
And
seeing noticing
everything
that
tanks. Yeah.
slow speed starts to slow down a little bit. I'm not saying it slows down to turtle speed, but it slows down considerably that you notice it. And you cannot undo an update once you update to something with on most of the devices these days. So
Yeah.
I think we are within a few months of really truly getting the full
I,
potential that they were trying to give
I
us.
feel
I
I
hope
feel
that they're
like
yeah.
that Samsung is unfortunately starting to follow a bit of the Apple curve where your best updates are going to be in the first year of life, but the first 3 months are
Or
spent with all of these teething pains. So you really
yeah,
only get the optimal Samsung experience for about 7 or 8 months,
yeah.
and then it's off to whatever the next new hotness is, and your phone is
Well,
now going
yeah,
to be
by then
worth
it's
a
the
third
Note.
what you paid for it in a
Yeah.
trade in. So
Oh my God, yes. So this is the first year where Samsung decided to stop doing the
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 crazy
the
trade-ins,
crazy trade-ins. This is the year where you're like, oh
it
snap, maybe I
finally
should keep my
happened.
phone. Maybe I should just keep my Note 20. Like
Yeah.
I traded it in and we talked about this last week where they gave me this beautiful email telling me that my phone was cracked. Me and like 1,000 people's it seems like, and then they were like, well, but you're gonna, and not only that, the email was not to tell me and say, hey, let's talk about it. It's hey, your phone is cracked. We're going to charge you $155 for that, but we're going to keep the phone. And if you want it back, just let us know and we'll just charge you the full 500 that we promised you. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like, it was just such a
Yeah.
shocking
And
experience.
just because like our audience knows you, don't you as TK Bay want to go, do you not know who I am?
Oh my
I feel
God.
there's a
That's like,
Samsung
oh my
PR rep who's going
God.
like, "Oh man,
Man.
you
Yeah.
did that to him?"
I was like, did you know? No, it's one of those. I will say the experiences that we got in there is just showing the changes that we're going through.
Yeah.
We're going to reality. This is reality. Reality basically that was not, leverage, and we didn't really get a chance to experience it. And we've talked about it year over year. Yeah, these numbers could not be sustainable. They're not making money. They're losing money giving you that much on a Z Flip 3 from a
Mm-hmm.
year ago where the phone brand new was $1,000, but a year later you got $900.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, they course corrected. There was some mistakes at the beginning. That it was supposed to be $900
Well,
for
and
the
Samsung
bespoke
is
with 512.
notorious for, oh, here's this great sale. Oh, but we're not gonna honor it.
Yeah,
Oh, that was just a mistake. We had guys
exactly.
in the Discord who were trying to get, I think it was Tab S7s, and the
Yeah,
price was like too good to be true. And then of course it turned out
TV.
Samsung killed every single one of those orders. And they're like, well, but what we could do is charge you way more and then give you like a credit to buy
Credit.
accessory. And you're like, that's not what you sold me.
The credits for accessories is good and
Different
functional,
than
but it's
getting a good
not a
deal
price.
on a
Yeah, you're not
tablet.
saving
Yeah.
money on the phone when you pay in retail for accessories that is, in my opinion, sometimes overpriced for what they are. But you know what I mean? Like it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't. It's not. You
Yeah.
got to worry about what you're trying to say. Marketing is definitely their forte. That's what they do. They
Yeah.
tell a story that sometimes doesn't land, and some areas where yeah, you're showcasing things that just
I'm
don't
really
exist on
concerned.
all
So
of the cross devices. Yeah.
to kind of spoil the video that I put out, which was incredibly difficult to shoot and to edit and to put all together. This video took me so much more time and effort than many of my other like more in-depth camera comparisons and stuff. I wanted this to be precise and I
Mhm.
wanted to really dig into details and stuff. But
Yeah.
this claim on a 200 megapixel sensor means almost nothing. And the
It's a numbers
conclusion in
thing.
my video
Yeah.
is when you see, because I do believe, like we've seen some really great. Danny did a video
Mhm.
looking at the Note 22 versus the Note 23. I'm very frustrated with people who lazily just say, "Oh, it must be because of the megapixels. That's why we're seeing better image clarity," because it has nothing to do with resolution. And I think the big upgrade
Yeah.
is they're using a slightly better lens on the Note 23 over the Note 22. And I bet if you could pull the lens off of the Note 23 and put it on a Note 22, you'd see almost the same
Similar looking.
photography quality. But that's not what Samsung said. When I got the Vivo X70 Pro Plus, Vivo made this huge point. We are working with Zeiss. We have these new lens coatings.
Mhm.
They made some comments about like having the GN1 and the 50 megapixel sensor and stuff, but they marketed Zeiss lens coatings, T-Star Zeiss lens coatings,
Coatings.
lens
Yep.
coatings, coatings, lenses. No one remembers that Samsung can make flipping phenomenal camera gear because they killed their NX line years ago.
Yep.
Samsung knows how to make an incredible lens.
Yeah. I mean,
They
one of their my
can
favorites is
market,
the Xiaomi 11 Ultra. Yeah, the
yeah,
GN1.
they can market good lenses. That is such a huge selling. So it's just frustrating because like I feel like they're misrepresenting the performance of the phone. The phone is still an upgrade over the Note 22. I
Mhm.
don't want to split hairs on that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
main camera sensor produces a sharper image than last year's phone. Has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with the resolution. I really don't think you're getting any
It
significant
it's the
benefit.
PR team. Yeah, it's the marketing
It's the marketing.
marketing
They
wanting to
wanted the bigger
catch.
number.
Yeah, and it's like what would people basically resonate? What would resonate with more people if you say, well, but you have Apple has the 50, or we have the 108, but now we're like at 200. Next year we'll be at the 600. I think at the end of the day, having more smaller pixels is definitely a different approach to photography. I feel like bigger, smaller a smaller megapixel camera that has a smaller megapixel number camera with larger sensors or larger pixels will always perform much more consistently. Autofocusing will be right more on point. You're able to get better, faster readouts. Sony demonstrated that year over year with their 12
Yeah,
megapixels. And
for
it's
sure.
crazy that people don't realize, like, you don't, I mean, they did that a little bit in their front facing. We just touched on that a little earlier. They went
Hmm.
down from a 40 to a 12, like, because if you read the numbers, you're like, but wait, why? You gave me a 200. Why are you dropping down the front?
Yeah.
It's because they wanted to give you a better experience and they realized, 40 megapixels. And
It's
this is
the
where,
better sensor to do that
yeah,
with. Yeah.
most company, and I don't want to make it sound like we're only talking Samsung. Most companies on the market right now, well, they'll put a 32, a 40, and something in there on the front facing camera, but they're capping you to 1080p. And
Yeah.
the images are
Oh,
typically a lot more softer than what you
well,
typically
and the
get from the
images are
main sensor.
usually, again,
Yeah,
you bin
yeah,
all that down, and it's like an 8 megapixel image.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
not.
you're not getting that full sensor side readout. So I will say that from my experience so far with this, and I have my S23 Ultra with me here on covering the show. Um, it is definitely one of those things you have to experience and use. I don't really like for my wife, if she wasn't coming from a Note 22, Note 20 Ultra, it would have been
Mhm.
a harder sell to try to kind of
Yeah.
convince her. I showed her some of the capabilities. I showed her some of the images from the vlog and from other things, and I'll show her, of
Sure.
course, when I come back from Barcelona. Not Barcelona, but yeah, from Malaga, and it is definitely something to try. But you have to really, really take the PR shtick with very much a fine tooth comb and figure out exactly what they mean. It's not clear, and the S23 is not going to perform the same way as the Note 23. It's a different
No.
phone. The S23 Plus is even a different phone. It's closer because it's bigger, but it's not camera wise. It's not. They're not the same stack. They're not the same display. They're not the same, quality QHD, 120 frames per second, fast charge.
Yeah.
I mean, the Plus is, but you know what I mean. Like overall, you're getting the best of what Samsung has to offer at the beginning of the year with the Note 23. And we'll see with the Fold 5 if the Fold 5 ends up basically becoming some kind of
So
innovation later.
Michael Peppertech has like a series of comments here. I'm going to try and roll through them really
Sure.
quickly
Yeah, yeah. I'll
because
just take a quick sip of
I, I,
water.
I I really want someone who can maybe point to some of this data.
Mhm.
If I'm missing something, I need to know because
Please.
what I'm doing is a very practical photo comparison, and I'm not seeing any of the promises Samsung is making. I'm not seeing them realized. But anyway, Michael Peppertech, we look at what Snapdragon has said their processors have been capable of for ISPs, your image signal path, for the last few years, and it seems like most features are software locked. They could
Hmm.
have done these things years ago, but the SoC was ahead and the software wasn't ready. So to sell new hardware, they never added certain things. Higher res plus extra step to bin equates to an extra step for processing. And I think that's the issue. I'd take lower megapixels for fewer steps and faster post processing and larger pixels for low light. So what might, if I'm reading you correctly, and I'm reading through this here pretty quick, Michael, especially when you're saying higher resolution plus extra steps to bin equates to an extra step for processing, it's actually the opposite. When you shoot a raw photo, you have the binned resolution. That's the real resolution of the camera as far as the camera firmware is concerned. So it's when you move it to a JPEG and then you start doing these ultra high resolution modes, that's where you're adding the extra processing steps because you have to add a ton of demosaicing. So you take a block, a cluster of red pixels. Well, that's not, you can't make an image out of that. You've got to
Hmm.
move green pixels to fill in gaps, and then you've got to move blue pixels to fill in gaps, and you've got to retile all of your little dots. That is a significantly more difficult challenge. And I think we also saw that demonstrated moving from the Pixel 6 to the Pixel 7.
Hmm.
The Pixel 6 still does not have the same quality of pixel resampling when you zoom. So when you crop from that sensor on a Pixel 7 Pro, you actually have a significantly higher image fidelity than on the Pixel 6 because Google is finally using this sub pixel mosaicing. Like they didn't do it on the Pixel 6. They just treated the Pixel 6 as a big 12 megapixel sensor.
Yeah.
They advertised 50, you didn't get 50. And it makes me crazy because Google doesn't even give you the high res mode to shoot the photo anyway. So we've basically been taking these pixel binning sensors and using them as the binned resolution, but marketing all of the subpixels to make the bigger resolution number. Samsung is playing some interesting games with how you can cluster different blocks of pixels,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's still a significantly smaller sensor than what you'll have in a Vivo or a Xiaomi Pro. Your pixel level detail is not as sharp, even with the better lens. You're working at a significant disadvantage. I think the Note 23 gets really close for it having sort of a disadvantage on that sensor. It got a lot closer to the Vivo X90 than I was really expecting it to. It
Yeah.
doesn't beat it. And so if you have better image clarity on a lower resolution image,
Hmm.
you could just blow that image up if you just wanted the 200 megapixel version of that photo. You could just make it a fake 200 megapixel image and it would have more detail in it.
Exactly.
So that's what's frustrating is that it's it's a combination of things where I really want to be excited about Samsung improving their products. If you were on Exynos, this is an improvement. If you had like a Galaxy S20 Ultra, you are getting a better camera, but it doesn't have anything to do with what Samsung is telling you makes it a better camera. To me, it's almost bordering on fantasy. We hired Ridley Scott to shoot a movie with our phone. Ridley Scott could shoot a movie on any optical image based camera. He could shoot a movie on my Arlo security cameras, and it would be an incredible world building event. It would look awesome because
Yeah.
he's Ridley Scott with an army of cinematographers and grips and lighting assistants and production assistants and a full facility to make an Arlo webcam look awesome.
Yeah. No,
So
no, absolutely.
that's not why you should buy the Note
That's the
23.
artist. Yeah.
And
You're getting
and
exactly what.
when I pick up the Note 23, I'm picking up what I feel is one of the crown jewel productivity experiences with a good collection of cameras. It might be one of the best collection of cameras sold in North America, but man, are we falling behind the rest of the world playing with 1-inch sensors and some really radical multi-sensor combinations.
Yeah.
And we're not getting that here. And I feel like as Americans, we don't even know how much we're missing. Well, actually, Michael
It's
Peppertech knows.
yeah.
Michael
Yeah.
Peppertech is not afraid to import a phone. But I just mean general consumers are not exposed to how different these things are. If you tell me that what you care about having in your pocket is the best camera, I can't point you to the Note 23. You need to balance that. If you want Dex and the S Pen, you have to know you're getting a good camera,
Yeah.
but it's not at the tier that I'm expecting now from Xiaomi's and Vivo's.
Exactly. And Xiaomi, I'm just happy that Xiaomi was able to make this happen in the global market. So much so that it seriously was just so happy because we've been like I've been begging to try to get more one-in sensor devices and seeing how different companies treat that sensor. But you've spoken so highly of the 12S Ultra that I was like, okay, crap, we really need this to be international. So it finally I was
It
very
finally
happy.
came.
I was very happy to see
Man.
that happen and finally say that I actually got a chance to go and check it out. And yeah, they had an amazing launch event, so it was really nice. And Honor had their event as well as, like I said, Techno, Realme, a whole bunch of companies. There's so much more too that we haven't even got a chance to scratch the surface on. This has been one of the shows that I think I would say it will be my focus going forward for
Mm-hmm.
coverage on tech shows more so than
Yeah.
my local CES, which kind of sucks. But I would probably say that I can for the most part do CES in one day. I can go back to doing CES as a one-day event,
Yeah.
and still get almost 90%, 95% of what I need to get without necessarily having to spend, 3 to 4 days. There's still some nuggets. There's still some things that you can find, like Showstoppers and Pepcom. They do better. I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
the microsite, the micro convention in within a convention kind of thing. But starting next year, CES is going to be moving to the second week of January, so it's going to be a little bit different than normal. And
Yeah.
yeah, I still think like if you were to cover, like I seriously, hopefully, you and I'm hoping next year we're going to be teaming up on the MWC. That's what I want to
I
see.
hope so.
I hope so, but we'll see.
I
We'll have
booked a
to.
really good job for MWC.
I'm gonna call all your companies right now, and I'm gonna be like, dude,
I, I,
next year you better give him all the work around this time.
I
It's like,
can't I can't
yeah,
really talk too much about it, but
yeah,
it was a full on studio shoot where I was the DP.
nice.
I was setting stuff up, moving
Yeah,
cameras
yeah, yeah.
around. We need a display over here. We need Video Village. Let's get some lights coming in on here. I'm on a
I'm
white
excited for
cyc.
that. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
need this on the table. We've got to pull that up so that, we can kind of have like an infinity effect so it looks like that's floating in space. And I'd spent, man, it felt really good. It felt really good to be on a proper production studio for the
I'm
first
glad.
time in
It's been
over
a
3
few.
years.
Yeah, yeah.
And
For
and not
pre-pandemic.
and not just showing up to be the sound guy. Like I was in charge of the camera team and you're like, "Oh, I kind of know what I'm talking about. Let's do this."
Let's do it. No, no, no. I'm excited. I could
So,
see. I could see. No, no, dude. My thing would be is obviously always do you first. That wasn't really me by what I was trying to say. That I just
no, but see, but it
I always
I
want aspire to have
but
this.
I almost
Yeah.
wonder if I'm not like subconsciously starting to look for, oh no, that trade show's coming up. I wonder what jobs I could book.
What can I do to make
Maybe
money and
that's
not
how
have
I'll
to
pay
spend
rent.
money? Yeah, no, I know. I'm with you. It's always one of those things that you always kind of like the balance between the two. This one actually was actually a long. This is a long trip for me because I left last Friday and I'm coming back on
Yeah.
Saturday. So it was like really bad. And then my flight tomorrow is, oh crap, my flight is tomorrow. Yeah. My flight tomorrow is at 6 a.m. here.
Ew, gross.
So it's gonna be a long one. And a few
Yeah.
stops with a lot of layovers, but hopefully everything works great and I come back in one piece and then basically
I
crash
mean,
all Sunday.
man,
You know.
we're pulling for you.
Dude,
So
I appreciate it. And
just get back safe and
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um it's fun. It was fun. It was great meeting everybody and getting a chance to hang out with a lot of new people. A lot of our friends, even Brad was there. Some of the other people also from
yeah.
from Xiaomi and so on. We got a chance. It was basically hanging out with friends, literally 90% of it. But it was seriously, legit, seriously a team coverage style that was needed. One person is
Yeah.
seriously, it gets into kind of like, okay, so what is it exactly? How much can you cover? What should you cover? The things that still want to push out are things that I'm excited about, and I think that's why I'm focusing on them. But there are
For
still
sure.
other. I promise you that even if I stop posting things about MWC by the end of the week, there is still more stuff that I have that I didn't get a chance to. But I'm going to try
And
to maybe
and
wrap up in other things.
it's the huge thing that like still breaks my brain is because I go to a trade show and I still feel like I need to cover it like I'm some kind of comprehensive tech organization.
Or yeah,
I
exactly. And I need to start. I need
I
to
went
focus more.
from, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like if you're going as an individual, it does need to have that personal touch of this is the stuff that I thought was cool, and it's okay if you don't get to everything.
Yeah.
It's the ratcheting that I went through going from Pocket Now to Newegg,
Hmm.
where it was a nice improvement where I went from being kind of a solo producer under the Pocket Now umbrella to really working as a team with the
Hmm.
Newegg people. But we'd have these crazy sessions like we've got to plan this to have these teams over here to have these interviews. You're going to be doing AMD, you're going to be doing Intel, these motherboards. Like we still had to cover the whole show.
Yeah.
You have to have that global eye view. If I go by myself, I can't. I can't have a global eye view. I need to have my eyeballs, my
It has to be
perspective,
macro.
and
Yeah, it has to
whatever
be focused on
means I
what
have.
you're going to be
Yeah.
working on. Exactly. And I think that's where the challenge has kind of been like a little bit for me, kind of covering, like I got hands on with the Techno foldable, and
Mm-hmm.
but I also have I got hands on with the glasses. I got hands on with the the modeling that Qualcomm was demoing. There's a lot
Yeah.
of things to cover. Um, but I'm also in the middle of still doing something at the time. I'm not actually done. It's very involving to be with, on a photography tour and so on. There's a lot of things to cover. I will
Mm-hmm.
say, I've never prior to this never knew that Malaga existed, and I'm definitely now like surprised that it actually is so nice at the south of
Yeah.
Spain. So it's like many thanks to Oppo, of course, for the invite, and then
Now
they tied it into it.
during the photography tour, did you tell the tour guide I know more about cameras than you do? Like you at least let them know.
I
Like
I
you're
I will do that today. I will make sure to flex
good.
today for sure.
Good.
I will do,
You
but
just
I will
need
say,
you and your best Ron Swanson. I know more than you.
yeah, I just give me the camera and just go sit down over there.
just
We'll talk when we're
just
done.
go.
Yeah,
I'll get the shot. You
exactly.
you go
I
go get
just
a
need to shave
coffee.
this, keep the
The big
mustache just coming
mustache.
down here, shave all of that, and just show up at the show. And then I just need to wear the
Now
sweater vest and all of that. Ron
I'm
Swanson,
worried that
always.
what you heard was bring me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said was bring me all the bacon and
And
eggs that
then,
you have. I know I've misquoted that, but it's one of
no,
my
no, no. I
favorite
know, no, I know
moments,
what you
Ron
mean. No,
Swanson
yeah,
moments.
he
So
is an epic. Ron Swanson is
epic.
always epic.
Well, I feel we should let you go. We have actually run out. Like even
We're close to
assuming we
that.
were gonna try and run
We
it
we
a
did I
little.
would say this, our 2 hour run was
Two
there.
hours seems to be the gig, man.
Yeah, we say one and
So
a half hour, but we really mean 2 hours.
but if we say 1.5 hours, then we try to land on two. If we say 2 hours, we'll go to three. So
Yeah, no, no, I know. I'm with you. I got to grab some breakfast, get ready, and then I think we have an
yeah.
early call at like nine
Well,
o'clock my time. So yeah,
as your buddy, as your pal, I really appreciate you, taking one for the team here, waking up a little early to share some of these thoughts
I
because
would
it's that
never,
kind
I
of
would not miss it unless I really, really couldn't make it. And honestly, I'm just glad that you're able to also kind of accommodate and work around my schedule and helping me out a little
oh,
bit
for
too, because
sure, man.
this is the week to talk about tech. This is not the
Mm-hmm.
week you skip. This is not the week you kind of like, why don't like, no, no, no. This is fresh. People
Harvest
talking about it.
season.
Yeah, yeah. This is literally it. And then I'm looking forward to a little bit of downtime for the next month. I don't have any more trips planned, so I'm good.
Nice.
I'm I'm looking forward to
Well,
being
I want
stationary.
you to get back safe, get some
Absolutely.
rest,
Thank you.
and then you and me just need to plan. I don't know, man. Like we haven't done like a silly zoo
I
field
know.
trip
We
or
need
something like
to.
that in
It
a
would be
while,
nice.
and
We have enough
I
camera tech
feel
to do so.
I feel
Yeah.
like we could revisit. What was it we did? It was an LG versus a Huawei, right?
I want
Way
was it
back in the
Huawei?
day when we did
Was
the
it or
LA
why was it
Zoo.
LG versus it was Huawei? Yeah, actually, you're right. You're right. It would probably would have been a Huawei. Yeah. I don't
So I
really
think I
to
think we're due
yeah.
like another just let's go shoot a bunch of obnoxious 40-year-olds running around the LA Zoo.
In the middle of the day with all the moms
I'm
and the
gonna feed
kids
the
and all of that.
giraffes.
Yeah,
Look
yeah,
at that
yeah.
depth of field.
No, no, we definitely have an amazing set of tech that we could definitely cover. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So we'll
for
have to
sure.
plan it out a little bit more. Hopefully, we'll chat a little bit more next week, of course, when I get back.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, for jumping. The chat was rolling through some hilarious jokes, and I'm sorry that we were kind of in the middle of that. We were
Uh,
reading them. I
yeah, yeah,
found them
yeah.
all to be very amusing,
I
um,
thank you.
but I
Always.
wasn't like doing my best to comment on all of them. And Michael Peppertech, He says, I geek out when it comes to photography. I might need to reach out and sit down and chat with you again. I mean, both of us would totally be down. You want to do a live stream and chat camera tech, and I'm getting my photography book revision proofread right now, like as we speak. We can nerd out on some cameras. So if you want to do that, I'm absolutely, we would both absolutely be down to join on that conversation. So, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, for joining, for conversing, for joining these conversations and having some fun, just kind of chatting this stuff out. We'll be back next week, but of course, we've got an entire series of videos and podcasts and other streamers that are doing some great work. So hopefully you're spreading the love and supporting all of your favorite content creators.
Absolutely. Yep.
From TK and I, thank you again, and we'll catch you back next week for another episode of the Best of Our
Best of our
Week.
week.
And I'll let TK have the last word since he's actually doing the traveling. Ready, go.
Well,